What is going on, everyone out there? I hope this is working because I am trying Restream for the first time to go live. So if anybody's in the chat, please let me know if this is working. Type something in the chat for me, please. Because as of right now, I see nothing, but who the hell knows? So if anybody's in the chat, please write something and we'll go from there because I have no idea if this is working or not, if we're live. Hopefully we are. Not sure if anybody's in the chat or not. I did put in the restream chat the link to the stream if anybody wants to. There you go. I see Chris Faison. What's going on? Hear you loud and clear. Awesome. That's great news. I did post in the chat the restream link if you guys want, if anybody does want to jump on tonight. But you know what? I got nothing going on. It's a Saturday night. I did a bunch of things today. Went to go see Thunderbolts as well. So we could talk about that for anybody who's seen it. I'll try to keep it, non-spoilerish. So, so that's it. I also have a bunch of stuff that I was able to pick up over the past couple of months that I haven't really shown on the channel. Nor, I don't really like doing unboxings on the channel anymore, only because it's like, I feel like nobody watches them, right? Everybody watches my channel for comics anyway, for my two lists that I do every week. Uh, Movie stuff I've been covering a lot on the Masters of the Universe film, and I'll continue to do that because there are a lot of people who have been watching it, getting a lot of great views, which is awesome because I'm really passionate about Masters of the Universe. And it just hopefully they make a good film. We could talk about that tonight as well. But I want to say hello to the few that are in the chat. So there's 9 people here right now, and like I said, I can go uh, until I get tired. I really have nothing going on. So let me say hello to like Chris Faison, who started this off, Mr. Wright. Luis Mendoza, how are you? Chris Faison says, I want to hear about the movie without spoilers. Should I drop my hard earned cash? And I'm going to say right now, off the bat, 100%. This is the best Marvel movie that I've seen in quite some time. And the last one that I saw, I'm trying to think, in theater, I didn't see Captain America Brave New World. I'm trying to think what it was. It wasn't that long ago. Definitely wasn't Spider-Man No Way Home. I saw something after that, but I don't remember what the hell it was. But I got to tell you, this is unlike any other movie that Marvel has made before. So in that aspect, the storytelling was great. The character setup was great. You feel a lot about the characters that are in this film, especially if you have watched, the Bucky and Sam Disney Plus show. If you guys have watched the Black Widow movie that came out during COVID, that kind of set up what's going on. All these little hints that we got all on these little movies really brought this movie together and what this group is about. So go see it. I thought it was phenomenal. You really feel for all the characters and what they've gone through and why they're a unit. It really is a great film. It's like I said, it's not like any other Marvel movie you're going to see. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on. I thought the Sentry was a really good character. They did really well with it in the movie as well. So, not like any other villain you're going to see in a Marvel movie as well. Totally different. So that made me happy with it as well. Because the Sentry, while I know a little bit about the character, more of a modern book, not really too familiar with it. But when they first announced it, I did a little research on the character, went back and read some of the key books regarding the character, and they did the character well for the film, in my opinion. They really gave him a great backstory and really made you feel for the villain as well, which is what you want. If you can have empathy for a villain, even Thanos, right? Even Thanos from the MCU, you felt what he was going through. So you kind of almost wanted to side with him as well, which is great. So definitely go see Thunderbolts. Some people are saying, the MCU is back. This is the first step. I think if this movie was good, if Fantastic Four First Steps is just as good of a movie, we're going to be in for a treat because that'd be 2 great films in a row leading us into next year. I don't think we have anything else this year that's dropping for Marvel. And then next year, of course, we have Doomsday, we have Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I think Blade was supposed to come out and then they canceled it. So I don't know if there's going to be a 3rd film next year from Marvel. We know Superman's coming out, but it was a good movie, so definitely go see it. Ian Fiddler, what's going on, brother? How are you? Darth Lopez, what is going on? It is fantastic, 100%. I agree with you guys. It was a blast. I brought my youngest, who's a Marvel fan, so comic fan, so he loved it too. But like I said, if you have a young child and you want to take them, some of the stuff might go over their head. But as an adult, having lived most of your life, you've gone through some things, and this is what this movie's all about. So kudos to Marvel for this one. I do have a couple of things I want to share with you guys. Um, One, I'm going to give 10 people in the chat. Let's see if I could actually post this. I don't think I can post this on here in the chat, but I could post it to the screen. Uh, no, I guess I can't do that. This is what I wanted to do. There you go. So I am giving 10 people right now 20% off my merch store. If you guys use your camera over this QR code, it'll take you to my merch store. And the first 10 people who use the code MIGHTY in all caps, MIGHTY, gets you 20% off your entire order. If you're interested, if not, that's totally fine too. But 20% if you use that promo code MIGHTY, all caps, uh, you have 10 people will be allowed to use that. I'll keep throwing that up, at the stream. T-shirts, hats, whatever you name it, sweatshirts, and it's really good quality material. I will say that. So that's for anybody out there who wants to use it. But again, appreciate you guys tonight. I want to talk about anything that you guys do. I want to talk about comics. I'm going to show you some pickups that I had over the past couple of months that I have not shared with anybody. And I'm also going to announce that we have the giveaway. I've yet to do my 10,000 sub giveaway. So actually, let me actually send this to my computer so I can share it with you guys. We're doing what was supposed to be a 10,000 sub giveaway. The artist, if you guys remember, um, took his time doing the art, which is totally fine. But not only that, this was his last artwork that he was ever doing. So again, bear with me because this is new to me, using Restream, but I think we're going to be able to do it. So I can just show you some images. There we go. There we go. If you guys remember, and I don't know if you do remember, that this is an incredible recreation of Avengers #4, done by an artist friend of mine, who's an incredible artist. This is actually original art. He actually pastes, you know, part of the, title, part of the words, part of the pictures all together. And he takes the papers from books, that were used from like this time period. So this book, I think it was 1964 or whatever it was. I'm not too sure. I don't remember. In fact, if I zoom out, you're probably going to see the year because sometimes the year's on this thing. But I don't see it. So whatever. 1960s paper and actually uses it to recreate this original art image, which I think is awesome. So if you guys are into Captain America, you guys are into Avengers, you guys are into original art, I'm going to be giving this away as my 10,000 sub giveaway. And believe it or not, guys, we're almost at 19,000 subs right now. So this is wild for me, right? Totally wild that we're at 19,000 subs. But something cool is you're going to see at the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see the bottom right-hand corner it says Mighty Comics 10K giveaway on the bottom right. So the artist put that in there, which is awesome. Really great guy. His name is Jason. Phenomenal artist. Great guy. And he's actually, I purchased a couple of these from him before, and now he's retired. He's not doing this anymore. So I'm going to share one other picture of the back of this, and just to see what he wrote. It's uploading. Give it a second. There we go. It says, enjoy. This will be my last drawing. Captain America has lived again. Jason 2025. So, like I said, this is going to be the last thing he ever does. Incredible giveaway, incredible person. So, if you guys are ready, I am going to do a live stream to give this thing away, just like we always do. So, I'll announce it ahead of time. So, just be ready. Look for my post. I'll post on Instagram. I'll post on YouTube when we're going to do it. But such an awesome guy and incredible, amazing original art. So let me figure out how to get this stupid thing off here again. But there we go. All right, I'm back. So yeah, I do want to give him a shout out, but I actually asked him to come on the show to actually do this with me and give it away. He did not want to do it. So he's not a shy guy, but he doesn't want to be out there to be known because this was his last original art piece, the last drawing that he's going to be doing. So he was okay with me just doing it on my own. And I'm sure he does not want to be bombarded with requests, but I have mentioned his name before. His name is Jason, and I'll leave it at that. That's a great thank you so much for the compliment, brother. You guys don't realize how some of you guys don't realize how hard it is to put in the time editing, make it trying to make good content for you guys. And again, I really appreciate everything that the good comments that I get. So Chris, thank you so much, brother, man. I really appreciate that. All right, so let me show you guys at least some stuff that I picked up, right? And we got, like I said, we got all night. I have nothing going on. Glad to see we got 17 people in the chat now. But like the one thing I like about Restream, which is really, really cool, is that there's some funky stuff to like ask questions in the chat, right? How cool is that? Ask questions in the chat. So if you guys have any questions regarding comics, regarding movies, regarding whatever, I'm here, man. Like this is now's the time to like you get to pick my brain. So someone's commenting what time on the post, and I'm just gonna reply, I'm live right now. There you go. So and to remind you guys, later on, if somebody wants to jump in and actually come on here and talk, comics, nostalgia, toys, movies, whatever, the link to join the chat is up top and it's pinned. So Kenneth Bird, what's going on, brother? So let me show you some stuff that I got. Um, so many of you guys know I do collect Garbage Pail Kids, but I've been collecting the large giant size cards, and I was trying to complete my set, and I found a seller on eBay who had a bunch of them, and I was able to complete my set on a fairly reasonable deal to get the rest of the ones that I needed. So here's Junkie Jeff, and all these are mint. Scotty, Potty Scotty, excuse me. Virus Iris, one of my favorites, and very expensive card if you can get the original series. Corroded Carl, Itchy Richie, another one of my faves, and a personal fave from Series 1, Ashcan Andy. Ashcan Andy and Greta Garbage, to me, are like some of the greatest names that the Garbage Pail Kids ever came up with. But if you guys are interested, I do not have doubles of these, but of some of the other larger cards, I do have doubles of. If you guys are interested, just in every stream that I do, every video I put out, my emails there. You could always message me if you're interested, or Instagram as well. I always answer everybody's email. So I see that somebody scanned the QR code. So thank you so much for scanning. If you're interested in purchasing anything, you're getting 20% off with the code Mighty, all caps. Okay. And it's only for 10 people. So I love you guys and I really appreciate it. Does this look infected? Great name, brother. Great name. Love your content and see you a lot on IG shopping in the same streams. Yeah, man. We're gonna get to some of the other stuff that I picked up. So, which is cool because if you watch some of not so much the hot 10 breakdown, but the top 10 of runners up list, there's some crazy stuff that I'm seeing there that's really piqued my interest. That you're gonna see that I picked up something similar, or something I've mentioned in the past on that video. You're gonna see me pick up something along the same lines, and I'll show you in a little bit. I just want to say hello to everybody. Cross Bronx Collectibles, what's going on? Looking forward to Superman. There's a lot riding on it. Absolutely. So am I. I'm a little nervous for DC because although Superman's a huge character, there are a lot of people who still are not infatuated with the character, especially people who are younger than me. And I'm 47 years old. But like if you're in your 30s and you didn't grow up with Superman and you didn't see the original, Christopher Reeve Superman films, maybe you're not in love with the character and you don't understand. You're not an avid comic reader. So that's why I'm a little bit worried. Jeffrey Fonzo, what's up? That's a new name. What's up, Lawrence? Glad to see you on a live stream. Hope you're doing well. You too, my friend. You're 52 now. I have an entire set of Garbage Pail Kids series 1 through 8 complete. They're not in the greatest shape, don't get me wrong, but to me, they don't have to be. They're just my personal collection. So with that said, let me show you what else I have. And like I said, questions, we're here to just chat tonight. No drama whatsoever. Also, I want to hear from you guys. If you've been watching my videos and you saw me change my backdrop, what do you think of the new setup? Do you guys like it? I actually love it. I think it looks great with the two statues, with the original art behind it. So I love everybody's commentary on what you think. So let me hear that. We can also talk about new New Comic Book Day, of course. Today was New Comic Book Day. I would love to go to New Comic Book Day, but Zap Comics, if you guys follow them on Instagram, at 6 a.m., the line was around the block. Crazy. And they don't open until 8. So I can't get to New Comic Book Day there because it's insane. But definitely a fun day in the year. Excuse me. I wish I could have gone, but I'd probably still be in line right now over there. They're always crazy busy, but that's what happens. When you're a great shop, you're going to get a lot of business. So let me show you what I picked up over the past couple of months. So this is a book I've never seen before, right? Never ever. It's called, I can't even make out this freaking issue. My eyes are going. I think it's issue number 2 of The Monsters. Check this out. The Monsters number 2, an awesome cover. Let me try to get there. There you go. I've never seen this before. I paid $240, but the artwork on this book is absolutely phenomenal. And I am sorry for my camera, but whenever I move, it auto focuses. So The Monsters number 2, definitely an awesome cover. I paid $240 for it, and Elite Comics 11 covered the shipping for me. So, which is awesome. They're always good to their customers, so check them out. But a great, cool cover. I love pre-code horror. I don't collect a lot of it because, from my experience, especially early on in this hobby, about 6 years ago, I had a lot of covers and a lot of great pre-code horror, and they were harder to sell. I think now might be a little bit easier if you have a really good cover. And I suggest if you are buying pre-code horror, the more effed up the cover, the better you are. So I'll leave it at that. But I had never seen that book before. I got it like $35 under the ass. So, and with free shipping from Elite. So very cool. Channel member, Derek Neiman, what's going on? And Darth Lopez. I forgot to mention that, Darth, you are a channel member. Channel membership is another thing. If you guys are interested, you get my videos early. So normally I get that top 10 runners up done. If Key Collector puts it out on Sunday, I'll get it up Sunday night. And it doesn't come out till Tuesday for everybody else. The Hot 10 breakdown, if it comes out on Monday, I will have it up Tuesday or Wednesday, the latest. So sometimes 2 days before my Thursday release, or at least 1 day, as long as, depending how fast they put it out, because sometimes they take their sweet ass time. But I'm also trying to get Nick, the Key Collector app owner, on the channel. We've spoken a bit. He finally answered me after I messaged him a while back, and he said he would definitely come on. So we're working on that as well. This is another pickup that I picked up. Check this out, guys. You all know Matt Baker, and I'm not a huge, jumbo comics fan. Trust me, I don't pick up these type of books, but Matt Baker art is something that is definitely collected by others out there. Anyone want to take a guess what I paid for this book? Maybe I could do something fun. Take a stab. It's a low grade book. They have it as a 2530. To my opinion, it's definitely lower than that, probably around a 2.0. But guess what I paid for this book? Any questions? I'm going to reveal it, but wild. To me, a Matt Baker cover going for so cheap. So if you can guess on that what I paid, that would be a good thing. So I did get something else from another collector, live show, I should say. So this was a throw-in, but it makes sense now with the movie coming out. Thunderbolts #1, Criminal by Nature. So this is cool. They threw this in for free. So great. Well, I didn't pay that. Geez, you guys are crazy. So I have a $15. No, not that. I wish it was that cheap. $400, which no, definitely not that expensive. I wouldn't have bought it if that was that much. 25, you're getting closer. 35, you're getting closer, a bit more than that. I paid $60 for a Matt Baker cover, which to me is phenomenal. Like, if you pay under $100, I still think it's a great price, but to get a Golden Age key, let me strike that, a Golden Age cover, $350. There you go, $350. No, $120. No, $60. And I'll show you just so you don't think I'm bullshitting you right there. $60. I couldn't pass on it. Like a crazy, phenomenal artist from the Golden Age, a very highly sought after collected artist for $60. It was a no brainer. That's the type of stuff. Like if you're on a Instagram live stream that you kind of look for, you look for like a steal. And as a collector, you guys have seen me. If you watch my channel for a while, you've seen me go from like only picking up bigger keys, to selling all those keys, moving on to a big book, getting rid of a big book, and then finding obscure stuff or finding something that's highly collectible for a really cheap price. So that's how you stay in the game. That's how you, at least for me, like how I've kind of operated. And I do still have some big stuff behind me. Don't get me wrong, but I want to show you this. And from my hot 10 runners up, I've talked about a lot of foreign comics making the list. There was a Hulk one by Yaffa, which is a crazy scarce book that a buddy of mine has. Actually, another buddy picked up a copy of it as well. So now I know two people with that book. I did not get that book, but I have come to enjoy and appreciate some of the foreign books. Not all of them, don't get me wrong, but check this out. An Italian Amazing Spider-Man number 129 that was published in 1976. So only 2 or 3 years after the ASM 129 from the United States. An iconic cover. You guys know I love this cover. I talk about it all the time in the Hot 10 breakdown. L'Uomo Ragno, first appearance of the Punisher in Italian. Awesome. I picked it up for, that was the ask, $175. So just a cool thing you don't get to see that often. And it's an iconic cover by Gil Kane and John Romita, who I absolutely love. So to me, to pick that up, it's just something you don't see that often. So when I saw it, I'm like, you know what? Very obscure. Not a lot of people are going to be into it. So I don't want to pay a lot of money for something like that. But it is a key first appearance in another country. And being a Spider-Man fan, being a Punisher fan, I thought it was worth the whole 175. And they have it graded as a 5.0, but I don't really care about the grade. Chris Faden says, you are a fortunate man. No, man, I'm not fortunate. When you see it, you got to just pounce on it. You paid $5 for a Matt Baker and a 1.5. If that's true, man, that's awesome. A lot of people are sleeping on the Golden Age Jungle Books. Yeah, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Golden Age Jungle Books, but when you have a hot artist, a very appreciated artist for 50, $60, I'm all over it, man. You can't, even for $100, like I think that's a good buy. I think that's an easy sell. And that's the thing. If you're not in love with the book itself, you gotta like look for books that are easy to sell. That at least that's what I do. So the last thing I want to show you that I picked up is something really freaking cool. Okay. So this is a transparency. Okay. So this was used to print this page, or this is actually a splash page from Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 2. So from what I understand, there were like 30 of these made back in whenever that book was printed, and they would use these to print the pages for the book, whatever page it was. And this is the splash page, of course, is an awesome Steve Ditko art. One of the reasons I picked it up, splash page number 22. This is number 22. I think there's 30 of them. So there's two pieces, the border and the other page inside. Very rare, very sought after Ditko production, or at least I thought it was sought after. Like I had never seen one of these before. So, and the fact that it was Steve Ditko, how many art pieces do you see by Steve Ditko? Even though I know this is not art, but it's still art done by him and used in the, comic book page making process. So anyone want to take a stab at what I paid for this? You'll have a fucking heart attack. Under $100. I'll just tell you, it's $90 is what I paid for this, which is wild in my opinion. Like, so this is like great comic book history right here that I couldn't pass on it for $90. To me, it's like, I don't own anything outside of the comics by Steve Ditko. So to me, I thought it was a really cool thing to pick up for $90. I don't even know what it's worth, but again, to pick up a piece of comic history, I thought it was a good buy. My boy Como, what is going on, man? Happy Saturday, man. I'm still waiting on that Masters of the Universe book, by the way. So if you happen to remember me, I'm definitely want to pay for it and get that from you. Make sure you guys are following Como Comic Books. He does a great bunch of videos on his YouTube channel, so check him out. And that's it. Like I said, guys, I'm here for Q&A tonight. I'm here to just hang out. I showed you the 10,000 sub giveaway, even though we're almost at 19,000 now. I showed you my pickups. So I'm here for questions. I'm here to just hang out, talk comics, talk movies, talk MCU, talk vintage, talk nostalgia, promote the channel a little bit. That's the one thing I probably should do a little bit more on, but it is what it is. Is there anything that you guys would like me to do as far as, for the channel? My man says he's got it sitting right here. But yeah, anything you want to me to cover on the channel? Like I'm not just doing comic related stuff anymore. I definitely have to open it up. As you see from some of my views that I've gotten recently, covering the Masters Universe film, like I got like 115,000 views on just talking about something that I love. So I'm open to anything right now for the channel and talking about it. So for me, it's all good. Sorry, I'm flipping back here with this restream. I actually like this. I think it looks a lot better than frickin' StreamYard. Derek says, if I remember correctly, Jumbo 69 is Baker's first published art. So this is not only Baker, but early Baker. I don't remember what issue this was. I just saw that it was Baker art. I'm like, oh, let me pick it up. This is 125. So I don't know about early. Cross Bronx says, I'd love to get original art, but it's so expensive. I agree. I have a couple of pieces, but the two that you see behind me are done by my buddy who did the Avengers 4. So they weren't crazy expensive, which is great. I do have a couple of expensive pages from Amazing Spider. Or no, not I have one from Amazing and one from Spectacular. I like Daredevil too, man. It's who you love. Buy what you love. That's what this thing they say it all the time. But especially with the hobby right now being very difficult, there's still a lot of people who are scared to come back in the hobby since everything that happened in 2020, 2021. I just watched Dave from Comic Book Investments video that he put out. I don't know if you guys saw that about comics dropping 95% from the highs in 2020, 2021. And I made a comment saying, I feel bad for anybody who purchased those comics back then because a lot of them he was referring to were 80s and 90s books, meaning like high 80s and like 90 books. So like we all know those books are printed to death. I always talk about on the channel how ASM 300, although a beloved comic, a great first full appearance of Venom, iconic cover, I think there's like 50,000 copies of that book out there. So like that's why I don't want to pay up for it. So people were paying like $1,900, $1,300 for a 9.8 first Carnage, which is crazy to me. Now it's like $150 book, $200 book max. So crazy. So Board Tom says $5 Baker 1954. It was a romance cover. Awesome, man. Baker's hot right now. So if you pick up that for $5, that is a steal. How about that Post Malone Trucker book? Yeah, that I saw that. Matt, man, kudos to him for putting out a comic if that's something he's into. That's awesome. I give a lot of credit to all these creators who, and not just, the big people who put them out, people, the unknown artists, unknown creators out there that they don't get a lot of recognition. I give them a lot of credit for kind of sticking with it, doing something you love. I think everybody gets their crossroads in their life, and I'm getting to that right now, especially in my career, about possibly doing something different and possibly doing something that you love. Because that's you only get one shot at life, man. And that's really what like the Thunderbolts is about too. You get one shot at life and you have a lot of regrets and you don't want to waste it. You want to take as much time as you have left to kind of do the things that you love. So Darth Lopez says he thinks that the G.I. Joe cartoon was better than He-Man, and I think you're out of your mind. No freaking way. I'm not saying G.I. Joe wasn't great. It was. I wasn't a huge G.I. Joe fan, even though like I grew up Masters Universe, Transformers, Thundercats, DuckTales, later on TMNT, and then even after that, when I was in high school, there's Batman the Animated Series. So like a lot of great cartoons. I just wasn't a huge G.I. Joe fan. I can't tell you why. But we talked about on your show, dude, Care Bears. I was talking about White before, Strawberry Shortcake. I didn't really wasn't into it. The Smurfs we talk about, another great show that is all about nostalgia. When I went to that vintage toy shop on one of my videos that I did recently, just it brought back so many memories of things that I forgot, like those little ET figures, those little Smurf figures that I used to have when I was a kid. Man, they were cheap back then. It's just wild to see those still out there at a store. You don't get to see those anymore. So that's just wild to me. So, like, again, I'm here for questions. Anybody buying any comics, or are you guys still scared? Also, one other thing I do want to mention, if you're a member of the channel, but I do every once in a while, I put out like a members only video that they only get to see. I remember way back when I did a like a short documentary about a book I was trying to purchase, and then recently I did that again about an experience I had and stuff like that. Every once in a while, I'll throw you and my members a good members only video about what I'm thinking about stuff. So if you're interested, that always supports the channel as well. Any support really does help because I put it towards all the things that I can do, right? You've seen my videos go from like being pure garbage to being like pretty good. So like the money that I have made, which is not a lot at all, but I put it towards Final Cut Pro to do better editing, stuff like that. So Jason, what is going on, man? Long time no see. So Como says he's been buying way more comics than toys lately, and so have I, my friend. That I think that's like a normal progression. If you're a collector of anything, and if people who have seen my room, I have my Masters Universe Origins, but I do have, as you can see behind me, some toys. I have almost a near complete Masters Universe vintage line loose, and I just bought an Optimus Prime loose that thought I got a decent deal on. But I just bought some other carded figures that I got for cheap from my childhood as well. And when I get them in, I'll show you guys that. But it gets very addicting. He's 100% right. He said it's a slippery slope because it is. So elaborate on that, Drew. How is it a slippery slope? Because of the money, because of the grade. I refuse to buy graded toys because the price just jumps dramatically, and I'm not buying them for for resale. I'm not buying for them for investments. I'm buying them because they remind me of something I love or that I knew when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, I used to have that. If I can get it for cheap, I'd like to own that now. So let me know what you think on that, Drew. And by the way, the link is still in the trap. The link is still in the chat if anybody wants to jump on and talk about any of this stuff. I'm all with it, but we could wait till that for later as well. Dora says there's too much money. Can't pay 2K for a low grade 181. I get it, man. I get it. But at the end of the day, I also think that you'll always be able to sell that book in a lower grade because someone will always want it. Yeah, it's a low grade. Nobody, you want to get the highest grade possible. But at the end of the day, there's somebody who doesn't want to spend more than that, but they want to own the book. So keep that also in the back of your mind. So Cross Bronx says picking up DC first appearances, the Silver Age ones. I think those are pretty good buys right now. They've always been good buys. Let's be honest. Like if you can get a first Silver Age Rizzler, a first Silver Age Penguin, all those to me, like those first Silver Age Batman villains, even the Green Lantern stuff. I know I'm not a huge Green Lantern fan, but they've always been cheap. Showcase 4 is again, it's a crazy expensive book, but for what it is, it's pretty cheap compared to you know, some of the other Silver Age Marvels. Board Toms is trying to collect all the absolute Batman ones, variant exclusive reprints. All right, that's cool. I'm starting to see some of them come down in price now, and when it's been really hot and it's still really hot, they were crazy, but they're starting to cool off a little bit, which is cool. Derek says, "You shifted from buying big books to smaller, more eclectic books." I'm with you, brother. That's what I've been doing. I've been finding like the shit from the Hot 10 runners up. There are a couple of books that I didn't know about that have like errors or like fantastic covers that you can get for cheap. That's what I've shifted my focus to. But I've also acquired some big books and I've sold some big books. So I needed to recoup some capital and kind of put it towards things. You can see I've had those for a while, but my Thundercats over the shoulder. Thundercats, Lion-O, and Mumra. They're mint on card. They're beat up to shit, but who cares? I just wanted to own them, and I got them for cheap. That's the kind of stuff that I want to buy. Chris says he's always looking for deals on raw keys. Picked up a couple lately. What'd you get, Chris? I agree. I'm still buying raw over slabbed. I'm not really buying too many comics right now anyway, but OAM, what's going on? Great avatar. Comic Embrace says, what up, Derek? Hand pink waving. Oh, there you go. Oh, Como says you start thinking, I'm just going to pick up XYZ, then you keep rediscovering new old things. That's the thing. Like if you grew up loving something or having something when you were younger that you really loved, that you really like first saw on that toy shelf, that's to me like that's all I remember as a kid is going to Toys R Us, Bradley's, KB Toys, like that. There was a magical time, man. And you see like a couple things that I just picked up that I don't want to mention yet, but when I get them in, you're like, holy shit, I remember that. At least if you're my age, you're gonna remember that. So like that's what it is. And you just gotta do it on the cheap. That's my thing. You gotta do it on the cheap because I can't see spending crazy amounts of money on some of these toys. They're crazy. So Crossbronx says he's starting to get into manga. Got a steal on the first Dragon Ball. Very, very cool. So this is his response to Drew saying to Derek saying before not before long you're living in a mini storage and he's saying he's there. 100%. I know what you mean. That's why I streamlined everything in this room is like I got rid of a bunch of stuff, kind of minimalized just to stuff that I'm happy with. But as I said, when his Drew said like you start picking up things like you haven't seen in forever, especially with toys or with cards, even comics, it gets to start to get out of control. So you got to really stop yourself. Here's my man, another channel member, Echelon Platform. She said the setup is calm and cool. I agree. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Chris is picking up ASM 252 and Marvel Team Up 141. Awesome. 252 obviously is a great cover. Agent Hunk, what's going on? Really care less about new books lately. Get only my keys I've always wanted. New books are hit 2 weeks, then die. That's how it's always been because you know, it's wild. I still collect the Mark Spears monster stuff because I absolutely love some of his artwork, but I only collect one book per issue. So I'm not going out and buying every fucking variant and shit, but I'm not paying a crazy amount of money. I try to get the shit off the newsstand. Sometimes I'll just order straight from Keen Spot because it's easier for me. The regular books are like $5 or $4 even, and they'll ship it to me. I'll get them late, but they arrive totally fine. And you don't have to worry about anything else. But yeah, there's a lot of hype surrounding new books, a lot of specs, so you got to be careful. I only focus on books. I have a few figures and busts, but I make sure I focus on books. And you have some great books, man. I've seen your wall of comics. You guys are not following him on Instagram or even on YouTube. I think he's on YouTube. Great, great comics. Drew says, as a comic guy that would buy $200 to $500 books on the regular, you can get some amazing toys for the same money. And I agree with you guys. If you're I don't want to say if your love for comics has dwindled because that's not what I mean by saying that. If you're kind of tired, and I've had some people hate on me for saying that, but that's really what it is. You kind of get burnt out after a while, especially if you've bought like if you've owned a lot of the stuff that you've wanted to own in the past. You kind of be like, all right, I've already had that. What can we move on to? And now all of a sudden you're finding stuff that you love just as much for that $200 to $500 range. And I've always said, and my boy Ricky at All Sorts of Words says the same thing, that $500 price range and under are like sweet spots. It's like I could pay that for anything almost, right? So if you have an attachment to something and you're willing to spend that amount, you're going to get some great stuff. Like that mint on card Lion-O I have, I paid $500 for it. That mint on card Mumra, $600. A little bit over 500, but like those are scarce right now, mint on card. You can't go out and find them. You'll find a couple on eBay for crazy amounts, but you don't see them every day. So that's what Drew is talking about. You will find some crazy stuff for that price range and even less. The stuff that I just picked up that I haven't told you guys what it is, $125 each. So nothing crazy. Darth says that's why he can't go down that road though, which I totally understand because you don't stop, but just you gotta set goals and then stop. Give yourself like one purchase a month of a dollar amount that you're okay with, right? I haven't been buying much. Like I said, over the 2 months, what I just showed you, that's all I picked up. So like I completed my 5x7 garbage book kit set and I picked up a couple of books and something that I'd never seen before. So now the new figures that I picked up. So he said also collecting random Panocyan covers. Is that a person? That's not Miko Swyan, is it? I don't know what Panocyan is. Somebody explain. Some of those GI Joes that your early the vintage ones are really expensive, man. My LCS Zap Comics has a few of them mint on card if you're interested. Here's a good one. I love feminine vintage comics, but there are so little female titles. Like this, like I showed you this. Again, if you could buy something like this for 60 bucks, if you like vintage feminine covers, awesome. Very collectible and I think desirable as well. I picked up ASM 4 and 5 Raw this past week. See, this to me, like at one point in my collecting career, like that's all I would do is just keep picking up Silver Age, Amazing Spider-Man keys because you can't go wrong. In my opinion, like that is like the bread and butter if you're a Spider-Man fan. And I would have multiple copies because they're always desirable and you'll always sell. And if you love Spider-Man, you'll enjoy having them as well. And that's what this is about. So it's funny you mentioned this, Drew, because Thundercats carded are tough, but LJ and anything on card tends to be tough. So I have been looking for wrestling superstars carded. I'm sure everybody, if you're my age or maybe a little bit younger, or a little bit older, you remember wrestling superstars from the 1980s, the big rubber ones. They actually have newer ones now. They're called the big rubber guys, but the old LJN ones, they really took a beating. And there's a bunch on eBay, but they're just a little bit too pricey for me. And I only want a few. I want Macho Man. I want Hulk Hogan. They have a black card series as well, which is the later series, which are insanely expensive. There's an Andre the Giant in the black card I'd love to own, but it's probably be thousands of dollars. But LJN, he's right. It was some of the greatest toys you will find from the 1980s. And we mentioned too with Thundercats and then wrestling superstars. Superstars are even harder. Yeah, man. Mexican Mumra a few months back. They're hard, man. Ian Green, another channel member. What's going on? I love you guys. We got like 4 or 5 channel members in the chat. Again, channel members go from like $2 a month. There's a $3 one and there's a $5 one. They're all the same. It's just how much you want to support the channel. So everything is always appreciated. And like I said at the earlier, I'll mention this again. And we can get back to this, but I'm offering that QR code is my merch store. If you buy any merch and you use the code MIGHTY in all caps, you're getting 20% off your entire order. So again, I really appreciate it. If anybody does decide to use that, I'll leave it up for a minute and then I'll take that back down. But I got to tell you, man, you're right. If you enjoy toys as much as you do comics, and I shouldn't say just toys, it's anything vintage, anything nostalgic. And that's why I kind of put that in the video title today, because for me, it was arcades, vintage toys, vintage comics, Garbage Pail Kids. I recently picked up from Rishi Buxo on Elite Comics 11 some vintage sealed packs of Superman cards. I just bought some Series 7 box of Garbage Pail Kids packs. In there is Blasted Billy 2. So we may go open that box. We may not. I don't know. I didn't pay a lot for it, but he sent me the box as well, which is cool. I haven't gotten it yet. But shit like that, you're not going to see anymore. The one thing I worry about, and let me get this off the screen now. The one thing I worry about with vintage stuff is that, especially with Masters Universe, Thundercats, all the stuff that we grew up in the 80s, it seems like only Transformers has, ascended the times, like passed through and still is kind of relevant. All those other toys are really not. Garbage Pail Kids, they have new ones, but I only think like older collectors are buying them, not younger kids. So my worry is 20 years down the line, is anybody going to be purchasing this stuff? So if you do decide to sell it later on, does anybody want to buy it? I don't know. But to me, it's worth having now just because it's where I am in my life. But let me catch back up in the chat here. They are showing up more frequently lately. Are you talking about the Thundercats mint on card? So comics, Embrace says, don't forget that thumbs up. I really appreciate it, guys. Really, if you do that. Ian Fiedler says, I'm looking to acquire my Grail TMNT 1, looking between a 6 to a 7.5 because of the price range. Can't decide if I should just keep saving for a higher grade or not. If you just want to own the book, and we're talking about a first print, second print, third print, you tell me. So my memory, there's 3,000 of the first print. It's also 3,000 of the second print. I think the third print jumps to like 16,000 in my memory, and that's from covering it on the Hot 10 breakdown a couple of weeks back. 16,000 copies. To me, that jumps up higher. So I would stick to that first or second print. Personally, it depends what you can afford. I don't care about the grade. If you go check out the CGC census of a first print, there's like only like 3 or 4 4.0s in a TMNT one, which is wild to me. So I almost bought one just because of the fact it's more affordable and it's more scarce. So if you just want to own the book and you're not worried about grade, get the copy that you can afford because someone is always going to want to buy that book at the first print, even if it's lower grade, as long as it presents okay. But the scarcity of that book in mid grade for a copper age book is wild. She says Dan Panazzi, who I'm not familiar with, so I apologize. What's good, blood sausage? How are you, brother? So again, I'm still taking questions. If you guys have, you just want to keep talking. I'm totally fine with that too. Ironically, I'm sitting here cleaning a rough on card little LJN Gremlin strip bendy I bought at the flea market today. Dude, there's always a great toy show about a half hour from me. Not too far from Zap actually. So they always have great like those rubber bendy toys that I want to buy, but I remember as a kid having nowhere to put these freaking things because I had a lot of them and I would put them in like a trunk that I had and they would just get like so many freaking rubber marks from the other ones. It was just they looked eye appealing. That's not English, but non-appealing. There you go. So I feel your pain there. Agent Hunk says he has ASM 3 through 20 as a kid in the 80s. Comic shop owner tricked me to trade him for an Alien and Predator comics 45 now. It still kills me. Oh, brother. I agree with you, man. I, I think we all at some point, I think most of us have gotten had in this industry in collecting. And it's just the way the world is, unfortunately. There's a lot of assholes out there and especially in nostalgia and collecting, there are just we see it all the time with sellers on whatnot, and that not all of them, but there's a few who scam people. eBay, of course, we've seen scams. I've been scammed when I was a kid on an AF-15. I don't even want to get into that story, but I just got out of college and I was looking for an AF-15, and I sent somebody money via fucking what was that wireless money back in the day? Uh, where you just send them money, Western Union. There you go. So I got had way back then. Thank God it wasn't a crazy amount of money, but it sucks. We've all been there. Dumb question. There's never a dumb question. How do you store carded toys? Flat seems like it would crush the bubble. Upright seems like the glue would peel. So let me tell you something. If I have a carded toy, I try to get a holder for it. Okay. You guys saw I just bought a Mr. T A-Team figure. It was so cheap. I don't really need to store that in my honestly, but if you they sell the plastic and the cases now that are relatively inexpensive. I would put it in there if it's a vintage toy and it has some value, and you don't have to worry about it then. The one thing I'll say about some of the cases that they could scratch part of the card, which is annoying to me. So you can't take it in and out. Like I have the cases for the Thundercats. They're in some plastic cases that are specifically made for those LJN Thundercats, and there are a couple of sizes. You have to get the right one, but that's how I grade them. So I don't really worry about it. I do have like the newer line of Master Universe Origins. They're worth like $20 each, if that. So I don't really worry about it. But if it does have value, I would say get it cased. I don't suggest getting stuff graded because the price to grade stuff and the time it takes, it's crazier than CGC how expensive it is to grade action figures, and you'll be waiting over a year. About to see Red Hulk, the movie Captain America. I heard it. My kid saw it. He said it was okay. I didn't think I didn't hear great things about it, but I heard Thunderbolts is great, and that's why I went to see it, and it was very good. ElfQuest comics have gone for so long, and I'm amazed that not even a movie has been made. Have been done aside their cartoon pitch from long ago. I thought there was some rumors. It made the Hot 10 breakdown like a year ago, and I thought there were some rumors about them doing something with the IP, but I don't remember hearing anything after that. Derek, I use clamshells from a company called MOC Masters. Yes, for carded figures. Similar to Zolo's, but more affordable, and they set up at the King County toy show I go to each year. So yes, the clamshells are a lot cheaper than the plastic acrylic ones. To me, it really depends on one, how you're displaying the stuff once they're cased, and two, how expensive the figure is, right? For me, personally, anything 500 and up, I probably wanna get an acrylic. That's just my personal preference, but, clamshells are totally fine. They're really cheap. I wanna say like 20 bucks. Drew, let me know how much each clamshell is. I wanna say they're 20 or less. And probably the more you buy, the cheaper they are. Definitely. For loose. I You know what I use for the loose stuff? I'm not gonna take one out, but they're like little standees, especially for like Motu. You can go on eBay and they have like little standees where they put their feet through and you could just stand them and display them. I like displaying my stuff, so like it's kind of hard to display a clamshell at times, at least a loose clamshell for a loose figure. I mean, carded ones is a little bit easier. See, I don't like when they mix and match. Like G.I. Joe Transformers movie comes out. I don't like the crossover. I do not like it. Right now they're doing that Master Universe and the Thundercats on the toys, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. There's no need. I don't think. Yeah, it's nostalgic, but at the end of the day, I'd rather see a true to form movie of the IP. Like the original Transformers, they weren't true to the form. Later, we got the Bumblebee movie that was a little bit better, and the other Transformers movies a little bit better. That's why I'm so hyped up for the Masters Universe film. I know some of it's going to be set on Earth, but all the things I'm seeing is I'm hearing such good things that I have my hopes up. Godzilla Shogun, yeah, man, I remember that. 1977. Vinny Whitlock, what's going on, brother? How are you? Wow. So, Alan Leo, what's going on? How are you? Still buying modern books for reads. That's totally fine. That's what you should be buying modern books for, or simply just collecting keys. Again, that's I think the majority of comic collectors. That's what we're doing. Also, what you take on the tariff. Just got educated that most trades hard covers are printed in China, so to be arm and a leg possibly. I think you got to get to the end of the year. So if you can hold off, hold off. I think the tariffs will go away by then. But nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. You know, Agent Hunk says in Florida, there's great toy shows and terrible comic shops. I got to be honest with you, I haven't found great comic shops. And when I say great, what makes a great comic shop is to me, this is my personal opinion, all right? Wall books. And when I say wall books, I mean like keys, but a constant changeover of wall books, meaning they're constantly getting new inventory of wall books. To me, that's important for a person who's collecting keys. And like a lot of people who do collect comics are key collectors. Back issue bins being constantly restocked with books, whether they're just for reading or for, Silver Age books, whatever they are, whatever you like, there has to be change over there as well. New books, obviously, to read, people coming and buying new books, a good selection, not just fucking Marvel, not just DC, but independents as well. And you have to have something else to bring people into the store, whether it be cards, Pokemon, vintage toys, modern toys, whatever it is. If you have all that stuff, you're always going to get people into the store. And that's what makes a good comic shop to me. You can't just be comics anymore unless you're getting crazy stuff in all the time. So he said first print TMNT. I mean, it's whatever you're going to be happy with. For me personally, I would be happy just owning the book because there's 3,000 copies. Not everybody can own them. They're not like, let me walk around the corner and buy a TMNT one, right? You got to buy the right copy. You got to get a good deal on it. So I just want to own the book. So I'm okay with a 4.0. And then for me, when I looked it up and I see 3 copies on the census of a 4.0 as compared to like higher grades, I'm like, you know what? I'd be one of four to own this book. I think that's awesome. So I'm not a grade whore like some people. I just want to own the book. Gary Hahn, what is going on, brother? Didn't talk to you since Landry Pop auction. I didn't win the Batman. How do you feel about the hammer price? Well, I didn't want to get into that here because that was really a members only video. But so if you want to know my feelings, become a member. There's a video on it on my channel, and I tell you how I feel about the price. But it is what it is, and I've moved on. Looking forward to getting that check in the mail. So you're talking about the clamshells, Drew? The $10 each? That's really good. If that's what you're talking about. So yeah, they're definitely worth it. Elf Quest and Wendy and Richard P is an insane story. Definitely worth of a feature length documentary. I got to check that out. I never knew about. I never heard about that. So I have my. He says I have my original release guarded carded real Ghostbusters figs in acrylic. They look great, but they're bulky and pricey. 100%. I'm mostly a loose collector, so I don't have to worry about it as much. I agree. As far as case figures, I only have those two that you see. Those two things carded that are cased. But like I said, I think it depends on the price. I've always wanted to own Masters Universe carded figs from the 80s. When I first got out of college, I made it a point to buy. I had like two-thirds of the line carded, but they get expensive. Back then, I wish I still had them because I would have like quadrupled my money from what I was buying back then. But I sold them to buy a house, just like I sold my comics to buy a house at one point. So I had them all in acrylic, but it does get bulky and from a display aspect, it is very hard. Depends how many you have. Hi from Syria. How are you? Wasim, what's going on? Blood Saucer says, I own a third print signed by Eastman and Laird on the inside. Will love a first print any grade. So, dude, I think like the third print, although it has 16,000 copies, like under $1,000. So if you just want to own the book and you're okay with the third print, go for it. I think that's totally fine. Just remember, like the third print is where they go back to like the comic format as opposed to the first two prints are magazine size. If it bothers you, it doesn't bother you, just throwing it out there. Did any of you guys see the documentary about the guy that bought the original TMNT? I saw that. The TMNT positives eBay and how he's printing TMNT comics from the original negatives and Eastman approved. Yes, I did see that. Someone sent me that in my Instagram and I watched it. Absolutely wild that he's reprinting the books on his own now. Crazy. I go check that out. I did see that. Very, very good documentary. I'm happy to see we got 30 people on here on a Saturday night and it's 9 o'clock. We've been on here for an hour. I'm probably going to go another hour. So this has been a good conversation. I like talking about vintage stuff, not just comics, about toys. I have a couple of graded video games. The one thing I'll say about video games, if anybody collects them, is that you have to be very careful grading loose video games. I made this mistake twice. I bought a Mike Tyson's Punch Out, which is my favorite game growing up from the NES. And I guess it came back a qualified grade because the cartridge was the wrong cartridge for the box, which is wild. And I never knew that. So you have to really know what you're doing to get into that game. I still want to own that, but I probably would just buy a graded copy just so I have peace of mind knowing it's a blue label. I don't even care about the grade as long as it presents nice, but my favorite game of all time. So I want to own that. I have a Mario Brothers, Zelda, and a Metroid. A couple of my other favorites. Oh, Cyclotron, what's up? What was the documentary? Could someone put in the chat what was the documentary called, if they remember? If you just, it's got to be on eBay by now. I would just Google TMNT comic repro or something. I don't know. I'm sure it'll come up. But if anybody has the actual link, be my guest to put it in the chat. Game 7. Who's playing Game 7 tonight? I watched the Knicks win the other night. Dumb luck, but it was okay. Crazy good shot. Mexico, what's going on, man? How are you? I'm actually trying to pick up some Mexican comics off of eBay, but the guy's being a little bit too crazy with his price. He's got some crazy, amazing Spider-Man Mexican editions that are really, really awesome, great shape, but he wants a bit too much that I'm willing to pay for a Mexican variant comic. So if you have any Mexican variant Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man comics you want to send me, my email is in the description. For cheap, I might add. Oh man, 6 p.m. on the West Coast. You're working on a Saturday, man. I do not envy you. I never liked working the weekend. They are blowing up, and I think part of that, when the Mario movie did great, I think you're gonna see a lot more of that. Nintendo making their own universe, which it was an entertaining movie. I didn't find it to be a great movie, but, like, seeing that even though I'm a vintage guy, I didn't really enjoy seeing a cartoon version or whatever the hell that I forget what it's called, that type of animation, but, it wasn't good movie, but it wasn't, like, my thing. Oh, Denver and Clippers. Gary says Zelda was his jam growing up, played it nonstop, see if I can get through the whole game without dying. It took me forever to beat the original Legend of Zelda. Forever. Like years before I finally got it. But I had friends telling me I had to do this, I had to do that first before you can go and win a game. The what the adventure games were never like my forte growing up as a kid. Like Pu- Tyson's Punch Out was my jam. RBI baseball, baseball stars, Tecmo Bowl. A lot of the sports games were right up my alley. Then I like the stupid games like Three Stooges was fucking hysterical. I love that. But I enjoyed the Stooges too when I was a kid. Uh, a couple of awful Back to the Future was an awful Nintendo game, but I played that a lot. Skate or Die, another one, fantastic game. So many great memories around that classic NES. Even the Atari 2600. I bought the reproduction now. They make a reproduction Atari 2600 that you could use the vintage games on. So you have vintage Atari games, they work on there, which is awesome. So I went out and bought. They're actually really cheap to buy the vintage Atari games. Find them loose on eBay for like $5 each. There's a auction. There's a antique shop by me that has a ton of them too. So I go in there once in a while and buy some. But Kaboom was my absolute favorite Atari game. Remember Kaboom? Oh my god, that fucking stupid jail guy at the top. I literally hated that guy growing up as a kid. Oh, my throat is very scratchy. I beat Tyson, man, relatively. I don't want to say quickly, but once I got past King Hippo, because I couldn't figure out how to beat him for like a good 2 weeks. Once I figured out how to beat him, it was like, all right, I get to Tyson, and then it took me a couple times to beat him. And I remember, and I still play the game constantly to this day. If you listen to the music while playing Tyson, it'll tell you when to throw a punch. Not just that he flashes before he throws a punch, because he's very quick in the game. If you listen to the music, it'll tell you when to throw a punch or when to dodge. So I caught on to that, and that's how I beat him. Oh, so I asked this question before, but anybody buying keys? So we had a TMNT one mentioned. We had somebody mentioned new comics they're buying. We had somebody pick up Amazing Spider-Man 252, 4 and 5 big keys. I still see people consistently on the live sales buying books, but I got to say guys, talking a little about the comic book market is that people are still undercutting on Instagram like crazy. Not a lot of bigger books are coming to market on Instagram pages as far as I can see. I still see X-Men ones. I still see FF ones popping up. And occasionally see an AF-15, but not a lot of movement. And I think that's because there's still people afraid to throw money around. The people that are still in the game maybe have moved on also from collecting those type of keys, like the big stuff, unless they can get them for a really good deal. Like, why throw around that money unless you're getting a really good deal on a comic right now? The smaller keys, like somebody else mentioned, the obscure stuff like that I'm picking up. I think that's like what a lot of people are doing, and that's why I like that hot 10 runners up, because it really sheds a light on all the other things that are going on in the comic book market that no one else is paying attention to. Like, obviously, we know about the hot 10 comics of the week. Every key in the world this week was on it, with Giant Size X-Men 1, Incredible Hulk 181, Daredevil number 1, ASM 129, ASM 50 was on it for a long time. So we all know those books sell, and they sell a lot, and that's why they're on that list. But what nobody else is showing you is that, All right, now we have a couple of sales of a Crime Suspense Story 17, which is one of my favorite pre-code horror covers. Guy getting his brains blown out right in the front cover. Um, they sell when they come up for sale, like instantly, and they're going for good money. What else? We had the He-Man mini comic from a couple of weeks back that I've been trying to locate for a good deal. The first mini comic that was released. Very expensive. Like Action 419, that great Neil Adams cover. I didn't even know existed till that was on the list. A couple of error books that made the list. The foreign variants that made that list that I had never seen before or I didn't know too much about that are selling because maybe that's, I don't want to say the black market of the comic book world right now, but like the non big key buyers, what are they looking at? So I like doing it, one, because it teaches it to me, but not also. I think it gives us a little bit of insight of also what's going on besides the keys. So Ian Green says he played Zelda 2 before I played the original. Still to this day, I'm still trying to beat Zelda 2. I'm with you, dude. Adventures of Link, so much harder than the original Zelda game, and I never beat it. Sealed graded, you want to own them or loose graded? I got mine loose for cheap, and then I had it graded on my own. Gary says, I did a massive trade for a Flash Comics 1 CGC 2.0 Blue. I think I saw that on your page. Did you post it? Oh, no, you sent it to me when we were talking about the Batman. You sent that to me. Congratulations. That's a huge book. I'm looking for a high grade Marvel Spotlight 5. Again, another book that was on and off the list for a while. And to me, that was like, for a while, that was the Bronze Age book that I wanted because if you look at CGC, and this is a while since I've done this, but that was out of all those big Bronze Age books, that was the least on the census. So to me, I always thought that was the best one to get. And it was a bigger character that hadn't showed up in the movies. And if you're any type of Marvel fan, you want to own the book. So again, high grade, I agree with that as well. Just don't go nuts. Flash 110.45 white pages. First Wally West. Congratulations, Vinny. Jeff says, am I buying keys? Yep. Sold about 2,000 books at a garage sale and freed up a bunch of cash for bigger books. Wow. 2,000 books. I'm assuming they're all smaller books, like $1, $5, $10 books, $20 books, or were they bigger books? Let me know. So this is another great topic. Collections inherited are showing up with amazing books. And I touched on this not too long ago in a video I did about when is it going to stop? Right. We saw that great Landry Pop option with the Tech 27 and the Tech 31 crazy grades, beautiful books. They came out of the woodwork. Before that, we had the garage sale Tech 27. Before that, the .5 with the roll back cover. How long before more of these things are coming out and kind of driving the price down on some of these books? Again, they're crazy, but they don't have to be like crazy. They could just be Silver Age Marvel, right? I still see raw AF-15s pop up on my feed all the time from people finding them, and I still want on the book. To me, it's the greatest book ever printed. AF-15, most popular superhero by far. But I think that has people worried a little bit, or no, I shouldn't say worried. I should say second guessing themselves a little bit, especially me. That played a part in decision to get rid of some of my books. Not because I didn't want. If I could just hold on to everything, I would. But for those of you who don't know, I sold my Batman 1 and I traded away my Tech 31 um, for books, four huge books and some cash. All those four books have been sold, so I got all the cash back. So I'm just stuck with what you see behind me right now. So Drew, when you say that the usual suspects remain the usual suspects, what do you mean? Like the books that they're looking for to buy? But that mini comic sale was insane. It was $5,000 for was it a 9.8? I don't remember what the grade was. It was $5,000. I knew that, but I don't think you're ever going to see another one of those. It was the only one on the census. So again, I'll be happy just to own the book in a decent grade. I don't need to own a 9.8 or a 9.0 or whatever the fuck it was, 9.6 maybe it was. Just wild. Absolutely wild. But that's the kind of when something like that sells, like that reminds you of like, oh shit, I forgot about that, or I didn't know about that, and I had that at one point, and that's why I made the comment in the video that like, go check your old toy boxes, right? Because you never know what you still have. I'm gonna highlight this comment, and I pray that this is the case, but the Knicks are too slow and unathletic, I think, to beat the Celtics, and they don't defend a three well, and all five starters on the Celtics can knock down a three. And I'll leave the basketball talk right there. This might be the comment of the year. Nintendo is the reason anyone over 40 has high blood pressure. Dude, you know how many times I threw that controller at the TV or at the Nintendo itself? Whether playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Zelda. Remember Friday the 13th? That game drove me nuts. The Goonies. The Goonies 2, the original NES game, drove me up a freaking wall. I couldn't figure out how to beat it. I get to a certain point, I get stuck all the time and get so frustrated and throw the controller. So, yes, 100%. Comment of the year. Nintendo is the reason anyone over 40 has high blood pressure. Oh, we have some comic book royalty in the house. Swaggle what's going on? What's going on, Mickey? How are you? I'm sure everybody knows the man right here. Make sure you're subbed up to him as well as Como Comics. In fact, I will mention on the channel to both of you, we have to do like another collab soon because I thought that was fantastic. So if anybody has any ideas, let me know. My oldest kid told me to buy Invincible #1. He told me that this is the new Spider-Man. Love the Invincible is relevant to the younger generation. So let me tell you something. I agree with you 100%. I don't think you should go out and buy it right this second because it is incredibly hot and it has been for the past ever since the Prime series came out. But you see that modern comic in a 9.8 selling for over 3 grand. To me, it is very reminiscent of Spider-Man. And obviously, it's a modern book. We can't compare it to a Silver Age book. 60s, people didn't protect their books. It wasn't until like mid 70s, late 70s, people started taking care of their comics. But that book, with the print run it had, very well perceived. Already has an Amazon Prime show, which is very well received, driving people to that comic, back to the comic. If you go check out the top 10 runners up, not the hot 10, but the runners up list on Key Collector, half the books this week were Invincible comics. It has some real staying power. I agree with you. I think you have to own that book before they come out with a live action film, and I guarantee you it will happen. This down the road may be that Spider-Man esque character, that series that people are going to flock to one day. I agree with that statement 100%. So, if there's a modern book I would buy that I would hang on to, that would be the one. But I wouldn't buy it right now because it's just too hot. Wait for it to cool off a bit. And if you want to own the book, then I would buy it then. But it's crazy right now. Even 9.2s or 9.4s are like 1,000 or more than that, which is fine. But because it's a modern book, I still want to own it in a 9.8. I'm not gonna lie to you. But maybe 20, 30 years down the line, that book's a fucking $10,000 book. I sold a bunch of smaller keys and runs I just don't need. This is the $2,000 books at the garage sale. The bigger books slab didn't sell too many of those. So that brings an interesting question we could talk about too. Especially Drew, if you're still here. I know you set up at shows. Are you still seeing slabs not selling as good as raw books? Are we still seeing or have slabs picked up a bit? I still see people buying raws over slabs. It might have not as been as drastic as it was before, right? It's kind of, I don't want to say it's evened out, but it's definitely gotten a little closer. People starting to pick up slabs again, but it's still people want raws, man. They want that equity. Maybe people just don't like slabs, but anybody in the comments, if they have an inkling into what they've seen, please let's talk about it. He says, I think the stuff that is going on to appear in the next 5 to 10 years is going to blow people's minds as the boomers fade out. I think he's right. And that worries me. That's part of the reason why I got rid of some of my bigger books. But the bigger books are still rare. They're just going to be less rare. I don't think you're gonna find Tech 27 pop up every week, you know what I mean? I think there's probably a good amount of AF-15 still raw out there. The Silver Age stuff, I think there's already a lot of copies. You're gonna find more copies, but I also think that, like, let's say there ends up being 10,000 AF-15s, and I think there's 4,000 now. I still think you're gonna find 10,000 people who wanna own those books, no problem. I As far as DC and those bigger keys, money becomes an issue. So, you have to find the right fan with that kind of money to wanna own those books, and that's where I think it gets harder. And then, of course, a lot of those books are restored, and that causes other issues that, we could talk about another time. But, the stigma on restored books from that era are does play a huge factor. And anyone who is a member, you watch my video that I put out, you'll know what I mean. Punisher and Daredevil slabs. So I'm assuming they're like 80s, 90s books, or were they obviously Daredevil Silver Age books, Punisher Bronze Age books, or were they 80s, 90s stuff? Oh, the usual comments was about Hulk and X-Men. Yeah. They're always in demand, but there's just so many copies. That's why, like, to me, like, I always say, outside of the 181 and the 300, the 266, the Secret Wars 8, those in-demand keys that everybody's always buying, like the 9.8, $500, like, that's all I'm paying for it. The 300 is a different story, and then 181 is a different story. Even a Hulk 180, I'm not paying more than $500 for it. I just don't see the value in owning that. The cover's not as good. People want to call it the first appearance. Whether it is or it isn't, I'm not getting in that debate, but the money book is the 181. And to me, I just want to own the book. If you want a book, you want to own the book, own the book. If you want it for investment purposes, you want to get the highest grade possible. But to me, if I'm going to spend that amount of money, I'd rather own a Silver Age or a Golden Age book. That's just my opinion. Manu, what is going on, my friend? How are you? This is like the longest live stream I've ever done, and I'm still raring to go here. So we're gonna go stay on for a while. No way the Cavs are winning. He says the Easter, but I know he means the East. I got to tell you, man, they played with incredible speed all year long. So we'll find out. I found a stack of the He-Man mini comics from the figures from my childhood. I wasn't aware they are worth anything. They are. They might not be worth a lot depending on condition, but He-Man and the Power Sword is the one that you are want to look for. It's one with the originally was released. So if you have that book and it is in immaculate condition and graded, if you grade it, nine, I think it was a 9.6, $5,000, but I don't remember the grade. The man says he's down for another collab, so I am too. So we just got to think of a good thing, a good show. So I said, it's funny you say this, Josh, is that I said this on Swaggle stream when we did that live, that over the first six, and I think that was in January we did that stream. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the first 6 months through the first 6 months of the year, that modern comics were going to take over vintage for a while until people got more comfortable going back to vintage. And if you checked out Swaggle latest video about the Thunderbolts movie, which we talked about at the beginning of this stream, if the MCU can get on track, and we just had this movie, and I said a Fantastic Four First Steps does well, people may flock back to vintage. People don't want to talk about, oh, the movies aren't affecting the books anymore. Good movies will drive people back to wanting to find out about the characters, whether they're in comics or not. And I always say this to people is that if you're in comics and you grew up a comic collector, you kind of know what's going on regardless, but there's fan service with these movies. So the non-comic collector or someone who doesn't pay attention too often may want to go back and buy some of these books, and that drives books. It drives speculation. It does. So, like, it can help. So I did say that modern and new books were going to take center stage for the first at least 6 months to 8 months of the year, and then we'll figure it out. It could be the whole year, but modern has been really hot with all the great writing that's been going on. So wait a minute. You said your wife just texted you she's midway through Thunderbolts and she's loving it, but you said you already saw it. Why didn't you go see it with your wife? My wife probably has no interest in seeing the Thunderbolts. She only goes to like Spider-Man or the big Avengers movies. So I always take the kid. I had a friend back in the early 80s that had hundreds of Silver and Golden Age comics that I always spent hours watching. Little he knew I was there because of his three sisters and not the comics. That's why we all fall out of comics, right? When we're kids, we're into it, and then the girls come in and we're just like, yeah, I can't be seen around this shit. So, but then at some point we all come back. So, what's our first love? The comics, the collectibles, the nostalgia, or the girls? I'm going to say the comics and the collectibles. That's just me, though. All of you can jump on now. Let's go. What are we talking about there, Luis? The Echelon platform says, I have a first appearance of Deadpool 8.5, so it means New Mutants 98. We can do a giveaway on. Are you saying you want to give it away on the channel? I'm all for that. Once I give away this Avengers 4 uh, original art, which was supposed to be for 10,000, but we're now at almost 19,000. We're going to do that soon. I just have to get ready and have time to kind of prep for, what I want to do, but it's going to be soon, within the next month, 100%. That's a great point too. I never thought see the Invincible overtake the Walking Dead, and I personally think that's because it's a superhero and not, you know, what the Walking Dead is, and it's an independent, and even though I know Invincible is too, but like it's a different genre. It's not a superhero. So to me, that's where I think it overtakes. Not everybody's into zombie killers and stuff like that. Great book, and if you're into the show, I think the show was what make the book popular, in my opinion. If you knew about the book before the show, um, kudos to you, but I did not before I watched the show, and I only watched a little bit of the show. I didn't watch the whole series, but everybody loved that show. So, um, when they make good shows about these comics, I think that's going to drive the comics higher. And I think same with like vintage. I wasn't alive in the '60s, but as popular as the comics were, once you kind of get pop culture and everything surrounding, whether it's be TV shows, movies, toys, whatever it is, driving people back to the source material, that's what you want, right? Oh, I'm getting all congested all of a sudden. So I got an answer from Drew. In person, it feels like people are still preferring Raw, and that's what I'm seeing as well. But why? Is it because they want equity? They don't like slabs? I'd love to hear, at least from you, Drew, or for anyone out there. Do you not like slabs? Do you want the equity in the Raw of trying to press it, clean it, and then send it off yourself, or you just like Raw books? For me, I just like Raw books. I've said for a while now that grading comics has gotten too expensive for me, and that I also like the feeling of Roblox. So that's just me. I'm an older guy. That's what I like. Problem with slabs is everyone always wants under last GPA, constant race to the bottom. Fantastic point. If you're an IG person like me and you're constantly on the sales, it's everybody wants to be under. When I say a good buddy of mine who newsstand comic collector, he just sold a 9.8 ASM 300s for $2,200. Now I'm seeing the average sales on eBay or wherever 28, 2,900, 2,900. Two at $2,200. That's lunacy to me. If I'm a dealer, I'm not selling at that. I think I don't want to say it's partially the dealer's fault for letting the books go for that because they can do what they want. But um, if people don't start being firm on pricing, it's going to get wild. But Swaggle is 100% right. With the Raws, people they're still making offers. Don't get me wrong, but they're not they're not making ludicrous offers. I'm seeing ludicrous stuff go on graded books. Yo, Derek Neiman, thank you so much. He's gifted 5 membership levels, the mighty level, which is the highest level of membership. Dude, Derek, you're awesome, brother. Thank you so much. And thank you forever, where anyone who has claimed those. Derek, you're awesome, brother. I really appreciate that. I will do a members giveaway soon, and I'll definitely send you something, man. I appreciate that. So claimers, Zero Cool claimed it. New York Warriors. What is going on, guys? You guys putting out some more content, please. I haven't seen you guys in forever. And Quasi Terrible also claimed the membership. So I believe there are. Oh no, we have a couple more. 50 H3 out claimed the membership, and Brian Klotz claimed the membership. Derek, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate that. Um, do me a favor. DM me on Instagram. Send me your address. I'm going to send you something for doing that. Might be something small, might be something cool, but send me your address on Instagram. And I'm going to send you something for gifting the gift of mighty. Appreciate that, brother, and for the support. Jeffrey said, yes, The Punisher and DD Slabs are 80s books and priced below fair market value. And I think right now, like Mickey said, if you're not priced below GPA on books, you're not selling them, especially on slabs. Raws, if they're desirable, people are going to jump on them, in my opinion, because although there's still plenty of bronze, copper, modern raws, I still think I don't see a lot of raw Silver Age stuff that are keys. Like I don't see a lot of Amazing Spider-Man raws out there. That's why when I do see them, I try to buy them, see if I can get a good deal on them. Eventually, everything's going to be slabbed, though. Every stupid key out there is going to be slabbed. The first one is the best, and the rest of the first set aren't bad. The Eternia mini comic is also crazy money. Yeah. Again, Eternia came out towards the end. I don't want to say the end of the line, but like 3/4 at the end of the line. I had it. I remember as a kid getting that thing and trying to put the stupid cycles together. But yeah, the mini comics are tough, man. And you can still find like a lot if you go on eBay, because I did search on this stuff. You could find like a whole lot of them for like $100. So you could find them. It's just the grade is what really matters, because some of most of them I find are in fucking pieces. So really, really bad shape. But don't pay more than, if they're not in good shape, don't pay for more than $5 for them, because they're not worth it. Unless you could find the one that Drew was talking about, the He-Man and the Power Sword, and he's saying the Eternia mini comic is also a lot of money. But the grade is what matters. I got the kids at home. That's why him and his wife had to go separate. I get it. You don't want to take the kids with you, or are they too young? Even though I don't think the Thunderbolts is probably a good movie to take them with. A lot of stuff wouldn't have been for them. Another channel member, Thomas Palmer. What is going on, brother? How are you? I'll always favor vintage books over modern. There are just way too many modern books out there. And that's part of collecting also copper and to an extent bronze. So many. I mean, I think there's like 17 or 18,000 ASM 129s. And I love that book. You guys know I love that book. But I still want to own them. But the modern ones, it's more about, I think, the covers, the variant covers. There's not too many modern keys that I could think of that I would want to own. Ultimate Fallout 4 to me is like, I would say Edge of Spider-Verse 2 as well, but they've come down so far. I think you could get them at any point. There was like 50,000 copies of Ultimate Fallout 4. So, I think they're important books. At the end of the day, there's really not too many keys I want to own. Invincible being like the one that, outside of the Marvel and DC's thing, that I would say, I definitely want to own. I just want to do it right now. Everybody says this as well. Need to introduce the younger market again so the hobby doesn't die out. And a couple of people have made the point about Marvel Rivals. I think the video game market is important for kids, because the physical media is not where they're at. It's just not. I think they have to, excuse me, fall in love with the character in a different way, and the physical media of comic books is not going to be that. Let it be the video games, let it be the movies, and then maybe at some point in their life, and I won't say this when they're a kid, they probably, when they're adult, they'll go back to the first appearances. That's where people will get into it. Jeff says we all fall out of comics when we need money to take our girls out. Yeah. Hey man, it's priorities, right? What were your priorities? Comics or women? The lucky guys out there can do both. Oh, Ian's right here. Thunderbolts worked because of the writing. Watched yesterday, and I thought the first act was kind of boring, but it came together. Definitely better than most of the Phase 4 and Phase 5 movies. I think character development is also very important. You forget that Black Widow movie, right? Came out during COVID, but how much did that set up Yelena Belova? And now you see her in this movie, and you remember back to the movie what she went through, and that movie was important in setting up this character. And I think Marvel got that right, even though most people said that movie was but it's part of the character development. Same way with Winter Soldier and Bucky, right? Red Guardian with that movie as well. He was great in this movie. John Walker and I forget what it's called, but the Disney Plus series with Sam and Bucky again. I thought that was to me that was one of the better Disney Plus shows outside of Loki. I thought the first Loki season was phenomenal. Kept me interested the whole time. The Daredevil Born Again, I haven't talked about once yet, but I thought that was great. Vincent D'Onofrio, to me, his Kingpin is phenomenal. He's up there with Thanos. That's how good his portrayal of that character. What he's done with that character is he's absolutely fantastic. So you forget how Marvel set up these characters in those little things that they did, and then kind of bringing them together in this movie was like the perfect response to all those little tidbits that we got about them. So they did a really great job. The writing was fantastic, directing was fantastic. And I thought the Sentry setting up his character as well and what he is with the Void as well, great. And they didn't need to do much, and they did just enough to make it be a very good movie. Jeff says raw comics are just cheaper. Not all the case. I mean, what I'm seeing with slabs selling on Instagram, people are again, if you see a high grade ASM 300, maybe you take the chance, maybe you don't, depending on your risk level. But to pay $2,200 for an ASM 300 9.8 when the market is 2,900, it's fucking wild. You getting a 25% discount just because it's a slab. Sold my Star Wars Mint card in 1994 just to buy a paper. Later, she became my kid's mom. That's what happens, brother. Women make you do crazy shit. I guess that's on us, though. Here's a good comment. Zero cool in real life. I prefer raw. CGC is kind of a scam. I always say this, and I harken this back to the Nolan Batman movies, the Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Rises, excuse me, Dark Knight Rises. CGC is necessary evil, as Bane says. Necessary evil. Manu says he loves selling below GPA. He is the problem. No, it's everybody, dude. You're not the problem, and neither are the sellers. You're allowed to sell your books whatever you want. And if you don't, if you're not on Instagram or you're not following the 9.9 newsstand, you're out of your mind because he breaks every fucking story. He has amazing books he has for sale. He teaches us something, and this is the most important thing that he does. He teaches us something that all of us did not know. And that's, I think, what we aspire to as being content creators, whether you're on Instagram, YouTube, wherever, is that, or even a community member. Let me add that in. If you're teaching other community members or other collectors something that they might not know, and you're giving information and you're being positive, you're worth your weight in gold, my friend. And that's what you are. So 100%. Chef, what's going on, brother? Just passing by, got work in the morning. Peace, brother. Nothing. Working on a Sunday. Well, I guess, we need food. Go to a restaurant, you got to eat, right? So enjoy, my friend. I definitely have guys that fall into the don't like slabs category. Others want the equity, especially if they press and clean on their own. Excuse me. Some are just tired of the grading companies and the drama. I agree with everything you just said. Everybody has their reason for grading or not grading, whether it's money like me. I just because like I said, if you're sending 5 books and you want to grade, you're spending a minimum $600 without shipping. I could go buy a fucking ASM 4 low grade for that for Sandman. That's why I don't do it. That's part of the reason I don't do it. But I think the equity thing is a big aspect of it. And personally, I'm starting to think people are realizing that there's less raw books around when we're talking about keys. So finding a raw key of whatever it is, a ASM or a golden age book or whatever, they're less common than a graded book. And I think that plays into the psyche of a collector. Obviously, the equity thing is a huge aspect of it as well. People want equity in the books. They want to get the books the best prices they possibly can. So for me, like I've been in this for so long, like a lot of you guys have, and and I used to send a bunch of books in when I was got back into it. It's just, and I've seen Mickey. He used to send books in to CGC. I don't see him doing that much anymore. A lot of people aren't. There's still people who do it consistently, but I think it's definitely slow. And I think it's more of a modern thing now or a big money thing now. Like if you have a big book, I think you almost kind of have to do it, but and not for preservation, just to assign the value to the book. And that's what grading is. It's assigning a value to that book. I can't say that most people grade books for presentation. A lot of the times they don't. It's just to get an assigned value. So the book is worth a lot of money. You want to assign an exact value to it, and that's what it does. So um, it's all, everybody has a reason, but I think everything that I said plays a part in it. I got I got to send you something. You're too generous, my friend. Thank you. He is the best. Period. The Work Warriors in the house. Says thank you for the gift membership. He appreciates that. Vicky says first you get the keys, then you get the women. That's the smart way to do it. He's 100% right. Unless you've been dating the same girl since high school, then you don't have to worry about it. What's funny is, and I'll tell you the story. It's a quick story, but I met my wife in 8th grade, and we didn't talk to each other until I was 39 years old or 38 years old after 8th grade. So it's a wild story. And then we ended up getting married after that. So you never know what's going to happen in this world. So you meet someone when you're a kid, and then you meet them again when you're an adult, and shit just happens. So, uh, saw Hawkeye in the morning. It just gets better. I don't know what that means, Darth. What do you mean you saw Hawkeye? The show? That's been around forever. Is that what you mean? So Flash says you can't sell a raw ASM 300 for 2200, right? Because nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's going to believe that that's a 9.8, right? 100% agree. But you could probably sell it for 1500, and then the person will buy it raw thinking they might be have a chance to bump that to a 9.8. That's the thing. Whereas if you buy a 9.8 already graded for 2200, but the market is 2900, who's not doing it? Even I would do it because I'm going to turn around right now and go sell it for 2900. So if I'm getting like 25% discount on a book, that's like this day and age, people are paying 60 to 75% for books right now, and then trying to make 25 to 30%. And maybe Drew, maybe you can answer that as well. What are you paying for books as a dealer? Maybe you don't want to share that information, but 60 to 70% really is like the spot. So if you're getting that right off the bat, that's what everybody is now. Every comic collector out there is a dealer, whether you want to hear it or not. You may not set up at shows, you may not go to your, you know, wherever and set up, but everybody's a dealer. And that didn't last long either. Manu. I actually thought about it myself. Um, that looking at it and taking a stab at it, but I'm like, I've kind of shied away for spending a lot of money right now and stuff. But great pickup to whoever got it. So Cross Bronx says, "Are you looking forward to PSA? I hope they have UV protecting slabs." Well, I know there's a certain level of UV protecting because right that they talked about that, right? Even I think that we brought it up on Swaggle live stream that we did that they will have some sort of UV protection. I don't know the extent of it. I don't think any of us do, but I am looking forward to I'm more looking forward to see if they can actually compete. I still think people cringe when they see CBCS slabs on live sales. I don't see too many sell. If they do, they're far below, market value. So I'm anxious to see how they're going to perform, how they're going to perform on the secondary market and go from there. If they do well, kudos to them. I'm all for that. I think it helps people who are in the hobby have a second option. And I have nothing against CGC. I've said that from the beginning. I don't like spending extra money that I don't have to spend. So yes, I am definitely excited to it, but we're going to get that first look, San Diego Comic-Con. I think they're going to start accepting submissions. So I think presentation is going to be the big thing. I think 100% from the get-go they're going to get the grading right. I don't really worried about that, but we'll see. I buy to keep too. I think we all originally buy stuff to keep it, but nobody's you can't fault anybody for trying to make a buck. I always say that. Even some of the people out there that harp on other content creators or other collectors that they say, "Oh, they're flippers or they're whatever." Like, I can't fault anybody for trying to make money in this business or any business. Like, you got to survive. So you do what you got to do as long as you're not taking advantage of anybody. That's it. I buy to keep too. I buy what I like. That's why when we started talking about toys and about nostalgia, like that's what you like. That's what you want to get into. That's why you buy stuff. Sold many of my vintage toys and comics, but something I will never sell are my vintage 90s clothing or my original 86 Garbage for Kids original card. Now, 86, the original series came out in 85 from my memory. In 86, I think they were doing 3 or 4 series a year, which is wild, but 86 is like it's got to be 4th or 5th series by then. So let me know what you got. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm getting all congested. Sniffling accountant. I don't know what the fuck that means, but it was really cold in this room, and now it's really hot. Jeff says he just got home. Guess he should go inside and go talk to the family. I love the channel and what you're doing. Cheers, everyone. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. Go enjoy your family while you can. I'm always here. You can watch me on the rewind or listen on the rewind. So he says that would be the max he would pay for major keys. When I said that 60 to 70% range, and I agree. If you can get shit for cheaper, you're going to do that. I think a lot of LCSs pay 50% on for fair market value on what the books are worth because they got to make more because they have a lot of overhead. Um, Dealers, if you just set up a show shit like that, yeah, you have overhead, but nowhere near a monthly rent and all that other shit that goes with it. So I just know from my personal experience buying books to resell, like the high end is 70. You want to say between 60 and 65, I think is good profit. The sun is undefeated against comic books. UV protection or no, the sun will get you if you leave your books in direct light, especially. I agree. I have my little setup here, but there's one window in this room and it's blocked off by this giant cabinet here. So the lights that I do have, they don't only stay on when I'm actually filming something. So I'm really never in here unless I'm playing like a video game and those lights aren't on then. So the banana thing is still going on. For modern 9/8s, I've been buying more CBCS because A, they're cheaper, and B, don't have to worry about banana bins. I thought that was taken care of already. No, they're still going on. Can somebody else confirm that this shit is still going on? I thought they fixed most of that, if not all of it. Victor Palucci, what is going on, my friend? Wow, you have all the first glossy 85 complete set. That's phenomenal, bro. Mine are not glossy, but I do have 1 through 8. Oh god, I didn't get that reference, and I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I know what you're talking about though. The guy at the bar. Yeah, because I dig it, man, because of the freaking sweater. The sweater. I forgot what the material was that he says in the sweater. That was Kramer when he goes into the bar and a guy they thought he was doing coke. Wait a minute. He wasn't an accountant though, was it? He was a trader. George was doing a trade with him, a stock trade. He wasn't an accountant. And they thought he was doing drugs. He's like, I'm hip. I'm hip to the scene, man. Remember? Ugh. Now you're bringing up more memories. So Manu says less than before, still some recent occurrences of bending and silly inner well fitment problems. I haven't seen anybody put up videos of issues. Do you know if it's just a certain grade of book or is it I mean a certain time frame? Like is it bronze, copper, modern, silver, gold? Because I saw Ryan from Automatic Comics do a bunch of unboxings recently, and it looks like his books are fine, but I know they were golden age books for the most part. But I thought they were just like confined to the more moderns. And when I say more modern, I mean like bronze and higher. So bronze, copper, modern. I left out the reason why I don't grade CGC and instead keep it raw since I'm only collector. I don't blame anyone selling and let the hobby pay for itself. I find that I don't know how people let the hobby pay for itself. I don't find that possible. So people explain to me how the hobby pays for itself, meaning you find a deal on a comic, you sell it for the higher fair market value, and then you buy something that you want. Because I have never been able to have the hobby fund itself. Like I've always had to take money out of my pocket. So Swag says, comic doctor still sees a lot of bends. He sends in a lot. So why? I know it's his business, but if he's seeing bending, why are we still sending stuff in? Like I feel like that defeats the purpose. Are they taking care of it for free if he resends the stuff back in? I knew it was can't fool me with Seinfeld. Seinfeld and a couple other shows that I religiously watch. Even fucking reruns. I didn't watch anything new. My wife watches those murder mystery shits, and she's gonna kill me in my sleep one day. So if I just stop making YouTube videos, you know what happened. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think has grading run its course. Let me ask you guys that, and gals, if there's some women in here. Has grading run its course? Are we finally seeing people saying it's not worth it unless they have to resell a book? Right? I can't see from what everybody's telling me. If everybody's desiring raw books, because whether the reasons we talked about equity, being a collector and not spending the money, and whatever it is, the problems at CGC. Have we seen? I don't want to see the last of it, but have we? Are we starting to kind of dwindle and saying, you know what? If everybody's desiring raws, are we going to see the end? I don't want to see the end of grading. I'm trying to make a point, but is grading's heyday over? That's a better way of putting it. Pussing it. Jesus fucking Christ. All this talk about women and whatever you got me. But has grading seen its heyday in comics? I think cards are a different story. Cards have continually put out stuff that needs to be graded. Continually new autographs, considering new books that are one of one, new cards, one of one, stuff like that. But comics themselves, is its heyday over with grading? There you go. So Gary says he's made a crap ton of money from comics and used proceeds to fund bigger books. Now, how have you made the money? Buying years ago and selling now, long-term investing, um, finding books for deals now and then flipping them for profit. So I'd like to know how you've made that money. I know you're not a deal. I know you're not a dealer, Gary. This is what happens when we're on for 2 hours. I know you're not a dealer, so elaborate on that. I've made money too from buying back then and selling when books are hot. I've also made money from finding a diamond in the rough and then, reselling it for higher. I'm a hooker like everybody else. That's a great point. The hobby can help make the hobby more affordable. It's tough to be 100% funded by it. Um, do you think that's what people do when they're looking through the bins, the dollar bins? Some people, I assume, are trying to complete runs, filler. But are people looking for books that are priced wrong? So Gary says he prefers graded overall. So you're in the minority so far. I think grading has reverted back to what it was supposed to be, a tool to establish extreme high value and to also cater to 9.8 snobs. 100%. Um, it is to assign value, but I think graded is a necessity for high value books. I understand that the 9.8 thing with moderns as well, because there's money involved in that. But anything outside of that, like I would never grade something that's not a key. I would never grade something that's not over a certain dollar amount. But I still see books that are like a 9.8 fucking bronze book that has no significance whatsoever that somebody graded and someone's trying to sell it for $1,000, which is wild to me. Like, I couldn't understand why someone would pay that kind of money for a 9.8 non-key from the Bronze Age just because it's a high grade book. I never got that thought process. So Manu took that personally. He said he thinks he's calling me a snob, which is what I call myself, so I'm not offended. I get it. The modern books I want to own at 9.8 if I want to own them. That's just me. I agree. There's just too many. Like, you want to get the highest grade possible. But are there really that many 9.9s out there? When we had that conversation, like, I thought when it all first started happening, I thought there was going to be a ton more. I really haven't seen that many. Outside of the modern things, I've seen more modern ones, but I really thought we were going to see more Bronze Age, Copper Age, 9.9s, and we really haven't seen it. At least I haven't. So, kudos to CGC for not letting that get out of control, but I still think 9.9 is there's just no need. And the people who buy the 9.9, um, I just I don't know. I don't know. Ian says, I don't think it's run its course. As collectors, I think we want to know if it's been restored or if a page is missing. Modern shouldn't be graded at the rate that they are. And I think it's just for the 9.8 and now the 9.9. But I agree. At one point, grading was established to show restoration. It was established to show missing pages because people were getting defrauded, right? You go on eBay, oh yeah, this book is complete. This book has no resto, and now all of a sudden there's all this stuff. So CGC was supposed to protect us from that, and it has turned into just a valuation tool. So Derek says the 9.9 rate has definitely increased since 2023 to present. You could see it in the census data. I don't follow a lot of modern census data, unfortunately. So Gary says in a few ways, he did it by buying a bunch of books many years ago. Finding collections in the wild has been very profitable. I even buy books off IG and sell on Facebook and vice versa. There are many platforms. So there's your playbook to buy and sell books to make money. I mean, dealers do it. I don't think I would ever want that pressure of having to buy something and sell something and holding on to that money. It's just not me. A lot of guys do it. Obviously, they do it for a living. They do it well. And I think anybody who would get a really good deal in a book would do it as well. Like we talked about the ASM 300s. If I had saw that for 2,200, I would have bought it and then flipped it for 20, 28, 2,900. Who wouldn't? Make 25% of my money and move on. It makes sense. I totally get it. OAM says I bought a 1965 Shelby Cobra for I don't believe you. $2,000 in 1993 and sold it for 40K 15 years later, paid for family needs. I don't believe you bought it for 2,000, man. Holy shit. For one of the most rarest cars ever. That's wild if that's true, brother. I should have played the rest of this. That was pure luck since I was looking for 50s Volkswagen and found that one in a yard. That's like finding that Tech 27 in the garage sale. A little bit less profitable, but I still would love to know what that person paid for that book. I can highly guarantee that it wasn't anywhere near what it sold for. $100. So I'd like to hear from the room. If you saw it in a garage sale, would you tell the person what it's worth? Or would you say, you know what, I'll give you $100 for that and go on your way? I gotta tell you, man, I'm not the first person to tell you I don't know what I would do. If I did buy it for $100, I would say that no one would ever fucking know that I bought it. I would not be flaunting it around. I wouldn't be showing anybody. I would just keep it to myself. But not like it's gonna happen anyway. But Will Wang, what is going on? Great name. I got back some JSC SDCC books: Deadpool, Wolverine, World War III, and 9.9, and two tens. I sold them off very quickly. Not sure if this was a mistake or if I should have held on to one of the tens. Considering I have no idea what those books are, I can't answer you. Maybe someone in the chat can. I'm not a huge modern guy, but I will say that if you made money on them, you did well, regardless. I tend to think exclusives and variants and new books, unless they are some type of crazy first appearance, important books, they don't hold their value. So I would think that if you sold them and you made money, you did all right. Many collators don't communicate with all platforms. Some books sell on one platform and not on another. What would you say the best platform to sell books in? On, not in, on. Obviously, you mentioned Instagram and Facebook. eBay is obviously one of them. There we have the auctions, auction houses. What would you say your most successful way to sell books are, considering, Gary, you have some crazy books and you've done well for yourself? What is your favorite platform to sell on? Most lucrative, not favorite. Chris from We Love Comics, what is going on? I'm shocked that you're still on. Well, I said at the start of this thing, I had nothing to do tonight. It's Saturday night. Everybody's probably in bed now, so I was going to go for a while. Yes, I am still on. He says he has pictures. I believe you now. Crazy. Split it. I don't remember that. So Mickey's like me. Team Rob Grandma. Or maybe he's referring to me. I don't know. So I'm along those lines with you. I just no one would ever know about it if I did it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm sorry. I'm not a bad guy. It's just, and I would, I probably, if I saw that in a while, I would not offer $100. I would give her some money because I know what that's something that could be worth. It wouldn't be $100. I wouldn't be that much of an asshole. But even if I gave her $5,000, to me that'd be worth it. Obviously, it'd be worth it, but she'd probably be over the moon. There you go. But again, if some woman is 66 years old or 70 years old, she doesn't know about GPA. She's not Googling. She's not going to eBay and doing all that stuff, I would think. So, uh, you know, it is what it is. I think you've got to buy it and then show up with a check for them after you sell it. You're a good person, Drew. I'm not going to sell it. That's the thing. If I find a Tech 27 or Action 1, I'm not selling it. I'll sell it long after they're dead. You know what I mean? I'll hold on to it as long as I can, and when I'm not tell anybody that I have it. But I get the sentiment. So he says his most successful is on auctions on his and on auctions on the YouTube channel, how he makes money, Chris. I've seen him sell books before on his YouTube channel. Drew says, I've seen too many people be offered more than they were asking and then blow up the deal even when they offered. Sorry. I've seen too many people be offered more than they were asking and then blow up the deal even when they offered terms are far exceed what they originally wanted. Well, yeah, well, when you start mentioning higher than what they wanted, then they get suspicious, right? They're saying, well, maybe I have something more than what I thought here. So you're right. You have to play it slick. Great point, actually, because I don't think if you I'd probably have to say you probably have to say, "Tell me what you want for these books or this book. I'm really interested. I'll be happy to give it to you." And that's it. You probably can't throw out a price if it's more than what they're looking for. So Derek says eBay is still king. Now, I would have said 5 to 6 years ago, and I know Chris buys a lot of stuff off eBay still. I can't find deals on eBay anymore. Maybe it's just the shit I'm looking for. I cannot find deals on key comics anymore on eBay. Everything's crazy overpriced. Does this look infected? Says show up on a stream one day with a mouthful of bling, and one day we'll know what happened. Maybe it wouldn't be that because I'm not wearing grills or nothing like that. But if I show up wearing like a ridiculous suit one day, and I have hair again, you know, that would be it. So Derek says the same thing Drew said. He would give them a piece of the proceeds, but do you think they would get mad? Like if I bought a book for $100, a huge book, and they didn't know, and then I came back with them a check for 200 grand, they would have said, "Why didn't you tell me this book was worth 500 grand?" You know, I don't know. I feel like that could still be an issue. I'm not saying shit. Sorry. I'm gonna give them whatever they want, and then never sell a soul. All right, so we got our answer. Gary says it varies. Golden Age sells great at a local con here in California. CalCon last February, I sold 95,000 and 58,000 to a private party that I met at the con. That's what I think he means. I mean, that's wild. So here's the thing. I guess when you have that kind of money, um, I'm assuming they're all bigger books that you sold, not just like fucking $100, $1,000 books. They're all got to be bigger books to sell that kind of amount of dollars. So that might be easier to sell, I guess. I don't know. Let me ask you this, Gary. Do you think the people that you sold to had any idea of the value of the books, or they just kind of went with what you're asking, or I don't know. I'm just trying to ask if the people you sold the books to know what they were worth, or they were like if you sold them to me, I know what they're worth. I'm going to try to get the best deal possible. If you sold them to another collector who might know that, or did they know nothing about the value of the books? That's a question I would like answered. And maybe somebody else who sells books like Drew can answer the question of like, when you sell books to collectors or people who ever buy them, are they up on prices, or are they unaware of what things are going for? Because the cons that I've been to, a lot of people that I know, like they've been pretty savvy on knowing what things go for. Instagram, there's no question. We're all there. They know the fucking last sale, like the day that it happens, right? Everybody's up on GPA, on Go Collect, and all that stuff. So we all know. But like when you're at a con, it's a little bit of a different story. Now everybody uses that stuff. So do they rely on the dealer? Do they rely on, you know, what they see on YouTube? Who the fuck knows? So I like an answer on that one. Back in the early 90s, my friend and I would deliver newspaper, and every 6 months our route was changed. We found so many vintage cars, and that's how I came around that Shelby. Okay. Man, that's some crazy luck. I gotta say that. How come I don't have luck like that? Chris says, I try to teach people all the time to look up values of comics, and almost no one does it. Everyone wants to base value on their instincts and feeling instead of actual value sold. It's true. I mean, that's why I asked the question in Gary, because again, the people that I see at cons are a lot of them are savvy, the people I hang out with. But I feel like the people I see there are most of us who are on IG, on YouTube. So we kind of get that. We kind of know what's going on. But I don't think that's the average collector. So, Gary, when you get a chance, I'd love to know that question, to know that answer. And Drew, too, if you're still in the chat. Oh, here, I think he's got it. Drew says, it's a mixed bag, depends on a lot of factors. You see the people who are more plugged in than you are, and the next guy in line may be green as hell and have no idea what is going on. So I'll pose the question back to Gary. When you sell that dollar amount, is it the person know what the hell is going on, or are they savvy collectors? Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. I think Swag just hit it. I think if you find that rich fu money client, they don't care. They'll pay whatever they think the book is worth because they want it. And there's a fine line between want and need and what you should pay for a book. We all know that because we're all in this, and we're all on YouTube, and we're all on Instagram, and we're all in the community. But an outsider, forget it. You could be paying stupid money for a book that's not worth it. And do we think it's on the dealer or the collector that's selling the book? I'm not just going to lump dealers in there to kind of say this is what the book is really worth. Um, don't pay more than that. And it's a slippery slope. That's why I kind of do what I do on the breakdown and say, would I or wouldn't I, whether you like that type of shit or not. Oh, if people refuse to work out, they will never be in shape. So if someone does not want to learn about value based on sales, then that is on them. Yeah, I agree. But you also have to think about like this. What if somebody's new to the game? They don't know. They want to be in comics. And I remember Mickey saying this when we had this conversation when I had him on my channel. We talked about the comic market. He says, somebody may be getting into the comic book industry and the community by buying variants, by buying new comic books, and they're very nervous and trying to buy vintage just for this reason that they're going to overspend on a comic. And he made a great point about this that I had never thought about before. And now I think about it constantly is that I remember how I felt when I got back into collecting, not knowing what things are worth, not knowing what GPA was, not knowing what I should pay for something. So it was all like seeing what other listings were selling for and then going by that. Um, so it is nerve wracking. And I feel like it is on us to a little bit. I don't want to say educate, but say, don't pay for that, don't buy that, or don't spend this amount when you can spend this amount. So it's hard to say that someone hasn't put in the work when they're green. That's why I bring it up. Drew says you got to get some of those FU money customers, man. Right now, I think they're scarce. Even with the heritage sales that we were taught, we've seen. Some have been okay, some have been not great. The FU money is not there right now. So Gary says there's so many right at last sale or under the last sale on GPA. Some are books you don't see every day, so scarcity plays a factor, which is good. There was those I would hold firm, but books move at a deal. Sold lots of to dealers, even to Terry, who runs the company, I'm assuming, or runs the con. I'm assuming that means. So, all right. So, for the most part, he's selling at what they should be sold for. So, it's good to hear big books are still selling, privately at least, right? And it makes sense because I'd always rather buy a book privately than buy it on eBay and pay the fees or the taxes, or on an auction and same thing, pay the buyer's premium and things. So that makes total sense. But yeah, it's good to have big paying customers. I will say that. And that's why I think the market has shifted away from, I don't want to say keys, but harder to find comics, scarcer comics, obscure comics, foreign. I don't want to say foreign a lot, but You could see the stuff I put out. They're definitely more selling before, or at least I'm more aware of them selling. Let me put it that way. The market definitely has shifted, though. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me tonight. Swag says, for instance, last San Diego Comic Con, CM Punk walked up to a booth and paid sticker on a Hulk 1 7.0 and an X-Men 1 8.0. That dealer was happy. I agree. But is that on CM Punk? I mean, do you remember if they were overpriced or was it at fair market value? I'm assuming they're overpriced at San Diego Comic Con. They're probably through the roof, but we're also talking about a guy with a ton of cash. So if you have it to throw around, I get it. If you're new to blackjack at a casino and never learned how to play, the house is going to take all of your money without 1 ounce of guilt. Learn to play or don't play at all. I will say this: if you go into blackjack and I'll play and sit at my table, I will not be happy. But those seem to be the people who sit down at my table who win, and I'm sitting there losing my money left and right. Are sales on IG or I'm assuming that's whatnot tracked anywhere? So no, thank the fuck God, because if IG sales got put into a database. And it's funny that you bring this up because Go Collect had posted something at one point, and I made a comment, and they messaged me and said they're working on something regarding this. And I said to him, I said, please don't do that. If you're ever thinking, guys, about recording IG sales, we're all fucked because we're talking about dropping prices ridiculous on books. So like we don't want that at all. So nobody should ever be doing that because it would drive down the prices on keys tremendously. I won't like to share. They don't need to go exclusive. Sorry, I'm driving home from a job site, texting and driving, so I'm trying to be cautious as possible. Dude, don't kill yourself, please. As Chris knows, I always try to catch a show middle of the day when I'm driving home from work. So, my God, it is Saturday. I know you're on the West Coast, and a lot of you guys are, which means it's 7 o'clock there, and you're driving home from work. Now I know why you could afford $100,000 books. Good for you, man, friend. Good for you. So do I. I was on eBay early, probably like you, Drew, right out of college. Right 2000, right out of college, I was on that thing buying shit left and right. Oh, remember you only need one person to buy your comic. Most focus on the amount of people looking at your items. Who cares if 4,000 people look at your item? You only need one of them to buy it. Yeah, but it also comes into be like desirability. I always say that like it's so much easier to sell an AF-15 than it is to sell a Batman 1. Even though Batman 1 is plenty desirable, but um Hulk 181, right? Incredibly desirable, just a lot more copies out there. So he says, yeah, they were marked up, but point was a lot of dealers who sell big books are looking for those types of clients, or like Gary said, selling to other big whale dealers. I always wonder this, and maybe Drew can shed some light. How are the deals between dealers? We all know that like before a show starts, dealers are out there buying from each other. Are the deals like really that good? Are they getting like 30% off at least? Or are they paying close to sticker? I gotta assume that there's crazy deals out there. I know there's a lot of trades too. Even if one of us have one comic book or hundreds of them, we're preserving history. Absolutely. That's what it's all about, baby. History. IG asking prices and sales are lower because less fees. Really, they should track net take home, but that would be a friggin' nightmare across so many platforms. I think it'd be a nightmare at all because I don't want to say like the market, but like the times we're in right now with people needing money and a lot of collectors have fled the marketplace. It's such a bad idea to do this right now. And I've said that like IG is the downfall of comics right now. And it is also the best place to buy comics right now. So take that for what it's worth. Um, at one point, when IG comic live selling and IG and consignment pages were in its infancy, it was a revelation to everybody. And now, although we all love it, as a reseller, as a collector, it is it is hurting the hobby a little bit, at least valuation wise. The good part about it is like everything's available. You can find anything you want right now. And I guess that's good if you're still buying books. Oh, first I've read that it's 2022. It's 2002, right before I graduated from high school. Man, I'm still older than you. Shit. Yeah, man. I bought it right in 2000. Like as soon as I got out of college, I was buying shit, and that was the time to buy because I remember buying like a Hulk 181 for like $150, stuff like that. Like Tailspence 39 for like under $1,000. Like good grades too. Like crazy stuff, man. Those are the time to buy. I did a video like a year ago saying I lost $39,000, and it was me going back to on Comic Link books that I sold and what I bought, and then what they're worth now, and then what I sold them for way back when, and it was wild, absolutely wild. And most of those books were bought off of eBay and then sold on Comic Link later on. Just crazy. Zero cool in real life. I had hundreds of books, downsized and limited myself to one short box of raw and one for graded. Are they keys or are they just runs? But I'm with you. I've been downsizing for the past couple of years. I was probably one of the earlier people to downsize, but I still, I got a run of ASM 300. I still have some big keys. So, but nowhere near what I used to have. But I'm still buying here or there. Desirability is based on buyer. If 98% hate something, but one person sees the value, and that is all that matters. People focus too much on what the masses do. Yes, but I feel like if you're buying a book, if you love it, great, buy it. But you always have to have some type of resale thinking in your mind because if you don't and you need money right away, I feel like you'll be hanging on, waiting for that one buyer to come along. And that's where you might get yourself into trouble. So, where you might want to sell a book for under what it's worth because you need the money. That's my only fear of doing something like that. Luckily, the characters that I like and that I buy are popular characters. So, it just happens to work out that way for me. The bigger guys try to roll into smaller or medium-sized shows and act like they're saving us. Local regional guys buying uh, sorry. The bigger guys try to roll into smaller or medium-sized shows and act like they're saving us local regional guys by buying our best books for 30 to 40% off. That's what we're talking about, the dealer to dealer to buys. Man, so I couldn't do that. I've set up at a couple of shows and I had a couple of dealers come to me during the show while it was going on, offer me books, and I couldn't, whatever. I actually ended up selling a book that everybody was looking for at the show. It was a Batman 121 for a good price, but it was not far off of my ask, and I sold it to a dealer after the show who I had like 5 people come during the show, other dealers, and then like one dealer came at the end and was like, "All right, I'll take it." But I couldn't do that, man. I don't know how I would tell them to go right the F off if they offered me 30, 40% off. Fuck that. When you're first starting out, it seems like a good deal because you need every sale at that point. Anymore, I don't play that. They get the same deal as everyone else. I agree. I think sometimes trades might help out if you're looking for something to be able to sell easier, but F that. I think I would make a lot of enemies in this community if I started doing that shit and someone came to me and offered me 40% off. I may seem like a whatever on YouTube, but I could be a fucking asshole. But so I save that for my regular work life. So I tend to agree with you. The best thing that ever happened to me with comics was when I chose to no longer buy modern comics. I focus on keys and grails. I've always said like buy the bigger books first because if you end up buying the smaller stuff, and I'll include modern and new books with that, because if you end up spending money on that, spending money on that, spending money on that, eventually you realize you could have bought some like of the important books that you really want in your collection for the money you spent on the new shit. And I always tell collectors that. So always focus on the bigger books first. And then even if you if there are even if you're buying, you know, Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man, it may seem like the easiest thing to do is buy ASM 20 and 50. And I do buy these books, and you should buy those books. But like if your aspirations are buying an ASM one or an AF 15, save your ass off and buy that book first, because then it gets easier after that. But I totally agree with your point about the moderns or the new books. I'll just include smaller books with it. Well, when eBay first came out, it was the only platform to me that like you can go and everything was on there. So, I mean, everything. You could buy anything you want on eBay right now. And now Amazon's like that too. So, you're not finding vintage comics for the most part there, but we use Amazon. And that's why I hate to say it, but that's why the economy is where it is because, brick and mortar is going to be no more soon for the most part. I don't like to talk about what I bought some of my books for. It tends to make people sad. So I'm assuming you buy them for good deals because I would just be comparing them to what I got them for. So that's what I think you mean by that. But I only share stuff when I pay for stuff when and it's important to share. Other than that, I try to keep that stuff to myself. Yes, I saw that on the video. So this is a good point. Batman 120 was the ultimate tire kicker book. Everybody wants it. Nobody wants to pay up for it though. I agree. And it's tough to get that book in a nice, decent shape. I'm not the guy who tells you have to buy the best copy out there, but mine was like it was a raw copy, which made it even more desirable because that's right. And this was like a year, almost 2 years ago now at this point, but everybody was still looking for raws at that point, and to have a key like that in the raw form made it incredibly desirable. Um, Everybody agreed with me the grade I had it on. So, and they agreed it couldn't benefit from a press. Maybe it could benefit from presentation, but the grade was the grade. It wasn't getting any better. So that's what made it even better. They knew the value right off the bat, and I was priced under GPA for a real book, and it sold for a really good price, but didn't stop people from sending me ridiculous offers just because I was set up at the show. So, um, I don't know why that dealer mindset of we're dealers, so we got to help you. I got to give you a book at the crazy price. Oh, so I meant to click this comment, Derek. What are we talking about? 27 copies of it. Are we talking about 181? Hulk 181? Because I think I know who you're talking about. She says, great advice. I was spending $100 to $200 a week on new comics at one point. I could have bought so much for that in 2010. Well, I was happy I came back in like 2017 buying books again because I could imagine if I was in 2010 buying some of the books, imagine how much money we all would have made if we're all buying the bigger books back then. Go look at an AF-15, what it was worth in 2010, because even when like the market started to really take off in 2019, 2020, at one point AF-15 hadn't moved. Like I was saying to myself, why isn't this book moving? Like shit with like Ultimate Fallout 4 was taking off, and like all these fucking books started taking off, and AF-15 was like every sale was getting lower and lower in grades that I was watching, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And one day, literally 2 weeks later, I think it just fucking started going nuts. Um, so I don't know how many. I mean, I people watch my channel. I picked up an AF 15 years ago, and it's got to be 2005. I paid 4,000 for which came back from CGC at 2.5. 4.5. That's like a $25,000 book now, and you paid 4,000 for it in 2005, let's say. 20 years later. Wild. Absolutely wild. It's just knowing what to buy and when to buy it. But that's why Mickey brought up the point, and I re-brought up the point that there are people who are just scared of getting burnt. They wanna come into the vintage end, but they're so much more comfortable playing in the modern and variant circle that they won't get burned. So, Chris says he started on Yahoo Auctions, which I don't even remember Yahoo Auctions, which is the only place to sell because eBay did not exist. Well, that's even before. Wow. People have had to send me checks or money orders. That's wild. I don't even remember that. No, I understand. He bought a lot of them back before the hype even started, 2005 to 2015, before things got stupid. Like I said, if you buy an AF-15s back then at, crazy money, even you're buying a low grade 1.5, spending 2 grand, still like the amount of money you would have made if you still held on to those books, and you sold in 2020, 2021, that would have been crazy. It is what it is though, man. That's why, like I said, it's you gotta be careful now. You really do. And that's why, unfortunately, with IG, people undercutting and undercutting and undercutting and undercutting. w- If anybody ever started tracking those sales, we'd all be owning dollar books. So, my God, I can't believe this is the longest stream I've ever done. It's 2.5 hours. This is wild, but it's a good conversation. I got to be honest. I needed this conversation. It's good to talk about this stuff. We started on Thunderbolts. We shared some stuff about the channel. We went into toys. We went into cards. We went into video games. We went back into the comic book market. This is exactly what I wanted tonight. So kudos to everybody out there in the chat who kind of stuck with us. We're 37 people still in this chat, which is awesome. I mean, I could hang on for another half hour and go to like 11 o'clock. So, um, yeah, I don't see anything changing in the short term right now with books. What will it take to kind of get things going again? We kind of talked about the MCU picking up. Obviously, the DCU is going to be starting this summer as well. Will that help things pick up? The vintage end, I think if all those movies are good, you will start to see them pick up. I heard Mickey say that, at least I thought it was him about the Thunderbolts. He, it wasn't him. It was somebody on IG said, you know what? When all the Thunderbolts hype was going on with the book, that he never wanted to pick it up, and now seeing the movie, it kind of made him want to go out and buy the book. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, it definitely does help, but to get us back, we're never going to go back to that 2020, 2021 atmosphere, but to get people back into the vintage and spending money and wanting to pay up for books and not wanting to undercut price after price after price, I want to get back to that. I want to get back to books, people spending $100 over GPA last sale, a couple $100 over it because they just want to own the book and they're hyped up to own the book. People are just still, they don't want to own the book. They want equity in the book for when they want to resell it. I'm yearning for that time of when that's going to happen, where people will go back. And how do we get there? That's my question to you guys. How do we get there? Is it just the movies or is there something else? Thank you, Chris. And make sure everyone hit the like button, support the channel. Thank you, Manu. Well, Derek says he remembers paying with money order on eBay, and I remember doing that too. But I gave you that horror story of me sending someone Western Union and getting beat. This is early on eBay too, so awful experience. One of the worst I've ever had. But like I said, everybody's gonna go through it. Now at least there's a little bit more safeguards. They don't allow that shit anymore. Everything is right to your credit card. Few people accept PayPal. So it's a little bit easier to deal with that stuff. But again, IG is a platform where people get ripped off all the time. Thank God we have a pretty good community where we call people out when someone smells bullshit, but it still happens. Oh, here we have a great question. We haven't had too many questions out tonight, but what are my 3 ultimate grails? I have been fortunate to own, I would say, 2 out of my 3 grails. I mean, I think anybody would wanna own Action 1. I've never owned one, so don't think I will own one. There's actually just the cover coming to auction at Heritage soon. The cover of Superman 1 coming to auction too, just the cover, which is wild. But I couldn't afford them anyway. They're gonna be, you know, Action 1 cover will be over 300 grand. But back to the question, what is my top 3 ultimate grails? Tech 27, AF 15. When I was growing up, I always wanted to own AF 15 and a Hulk 1. Those are my 2 things that I always wanted to own, and I still have them in my collection. So I have to put Action 1 there because it's such a significance, right? But for me and for comics in general. But if I wipe that from the slate, Tech 27, AF 15, and Hulk 1. And I could say I own all those books. Oh, he's got multiple 121s. There you go. It's a good book to have. To me, I always say with that book, with Batman 181, those true first Silver Age appearances of characters, like those are the books to get because yes, the other Silver Age ones are first Silver Age, not true first. So those are the ones I would start with if I was a Batman fan. Are those books? Heard of a guy who knows a guy that knows a guy with a short box of 181s. I remember the Golden Age Guru who had like 50 that he was hoarding. I don't know if he still has them, but wild. That's why, like I always say, like if you're a Wolverine fan, you got to own the book. It's a great book, but I'm not necessarily going to go out and buy it unless I am a Wolverine fan. But if you want to own the book, just go buy it and don't worry about it. He says it paid more for a CGC 8.0 Marvel Spotlight 5 in 2021 than I did for my AF 15. Wow. What grade is your AF 15? I don't know whether to say you got a great deal on the AF 15 or you paid way too much for the Spotlight 5. That's an ambiguous thing there. I'm assuming you paid way too much for the Spotlight 5, but you tell me. The 4,000 back then probably bought more for you compared to the 45,000 today. 100%. Killer Money, great name. I passed on a Raw Hulk 181 for 3,900 last year. Suck because I wanted one so bad it looked low grade to me. I want a Raw that get maybe an 8.59ish. I don't. That's a hard get. 8.59ish Raw for a 181. That I mean, I wouldn't pay that up for a Raw one because it's just too much risk for because the dollar amount is crazy. That's a big risk. I would just if you're gonna buy that such a high grade, I'd rather have a raw copy. I mean, I'd rather have a slab copy. Amazing pop culture podcast. Thank you so much for the super chat. If you guys haven't checked him out, I did a podcast with him a while back. We talked about comics, we talked about other stuff. Go check him out. Great dude. I think we all can agree that Kangaroo is the best Spider-Man villain of all time. 100%. But yeah, definitely check him out. Does a great podcast. Will Wang, I bought my AF-15 4.0 back in 2008 from a local dentist selling all his comic books so you can get into sword collecting. Wow. Got my AF graded and signature edition Stan Lee. That's awesome. I have a signed one as well, but a 4.0 is beautiful, man. That's got to be. I'm just going off what I know. 2.5 is roughly 25. 3.0 is roughly 30. Could be a little less. 3.5. It's about 5,000 increments. If you have a 4.0, Stan Lee is close to a 4.5 blue label, but it's with the market the way it is, everything's a little skewed. Also, presentation has everything, so you know that, I'm sure. I'm procrastinating my next video to hang here. So, I haven't seen you put anything in a while, dude. You gotta get back on it. And I said we gotta do a collab soon, 100%. But I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. There you go. Tease, what's the next topic? The MCU and DCU will pick up when they finally give up on DEI and give the fans the original characters they were real superheroes. Yes, but go see Thunderbolts. It was very, very good. No DEI stuff. Just an excellent, excellent character-driven movie. His bread and butter. Top 10 comics on a $100 budget. And he does it well. And I will say, Drew, you have the best YouTube voice of all of us. 100%. You could do commercials. I'm calling it right now. No questions asked. If you ever want to get to a side gig of doing like commercials, you're in. Darth Lopez for the $2. Thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate that. We need a He-Man cartoon deep dive video. So we're talking about the 80s cartoon or the new one, Kevin Smith. I can go back and do the 80s one, but I feel like nobody would watch that. I would, but no one else would. I still go back and I watch some of the cartoons on eBay on YouTube right now. Such a great, great show. Tell me Skeletor wasn't the greatest cartoon villain of all time. Any villain of all time, right? Hold on, let me just Come in, you royal boo. Hope you guys heard that. I don't know if that played on this thing, but iconic. Shauna Rain, how are you? Yo, hello, bro, from Nebraska. Just wanted to say hello. I'm watching the Fatal Fury pay-per-view, the Canelo boxing fight. I forgot that was on tonight. Just want to stop by. G, say what's up. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Hello, and enjoy the fight. I forgot that was tonight. Tried and tested. That's why, I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of us YouTube guys have our staple shows that we do. Drew is definitely one of them. Myself, with the breakdown, and now I'm hopefully doing that runners up. I think they're must-watch videos, like, just like Drew's budget comic video, like, that's something I think most of the collectors who watch YouTube constantly watch to kinda see what things are selling for, right? Or what things are worth. I think a lot of those videos do well. What is going on, MJ? Glad to join us here tonight. We're 2 hours and 36 minutes in. I'm gonna go till 11, then I'm gonna probably cut it off and go to bed, but unless this gets, like, crazy good, and then we're gonna keep going, and who knows? I usually go to bed at 8:30, so oh, wow. Here's a question. What is the biggest regret comic sale you chose to sell? Wow, that's a great question. I have 2, and they're 2 different reasons. One, that AF-15 that I purchased back in 2005 or whenever it was, I bought it raw, sent it to CGC when CGC was still early, and it came back at 2.5, and I ended up selling it for the exact same price that I bought it for. Like I said, I told you guys what a 2.5 is worth now, roughly 25,000 around that area. So I regret selling that book because it was a beautiful copy with no chipping. Colors are great. I remember it to this day, absolutely beautiful. I actually I sold it on Comic Link, and during that video that I did, it showed what I sold it for. So you can see what the book actually looks like if you go back and look at that video. That was a big regret because that was the first AF-15 I ever bought, and that was the book that I've always wanted in my collection. Huge Spider-Man fan, so that was a regret. And I have a regret about a book that I recently just sold, and not because of me selling it, because of what I sold for, and I'll leave it at that. Still a good experience, but uh, if times were different, it would have been different. And I'll leave it at that. I don't know how to better explain it to that without giving too much away. And comics over toys, video games, cards. My grail is Cap 100, Kirby is king. Cap 100 is a great book. 100%, especially if you're a big Cap fan. There you go. MG Comics. MJ Comics is G2, Trooper. That he is. It's gotta be late for you out there, brother. What are you doing? What are you up? Drew, what do you mean by both? What am I missing? Too many comments in between. Timothy Britt, how are you? I traded 17 books for a raw 181 valued at 2,700 and it came back in 8.0 with off-white to white pages. That's a fucking good deal, right? What are 8.0s going for right now? Definitely more than 2,700. So how long ago was that, Tim? That's a good deal. Here's a bad one. I paid 3,300 for a Hulk 181 4.0 back during the market boom 2021. So his question was, what was my biggest regret selling a book? So I have plenty more about buying a book because I've overpaid. I think we all have at one point in 2020, 2021. We all did that. I bought a FF5 that I paid way too much for. Um, but I ended up taking a loss on that one. But it's just the times, right? We all did it. So he said he bought the AF-15 Raw as a 2.0 from a big name dealer. Whoa, came back restored after he swore on his mother's grave that it wasn't restored. Cracked it and had Stan sign it to recoup some of the lost value. Oh man. And they wouldn't do anything about it. They wouldn't take it back. They wouldn't, refund you the difference. Oh, I would have outed them. That's just me. I understand why you don't want to out them. Don't get me wrong. But I bought a Roebuck that came back restored off of eBay once, but never from a dealer. That would not have been good. So it's now a 2.5 Signature Series restored. So Manu says, "Are you going to grade some Goosebumps?" I'm assuming he means the comics Goosebumps. Well, I gotta say this: you paid 3,700 for an AF-15. I get why you were upset back then, but now that's definitely worth more than that. 3,800 for the Marvel Spotlight. So yeah, I got you. Definitely did better on the AF-15, even with the restoration. So I get this question a lot. So what's your end game? Are you leaving your books to your kids or selling off in your later years? I would like to leave certain books to my kids, but I'll tell you what I have left because there's not much. I have my ASM run 1 to 301. I have my AF-15. I have my Hulk 1. I have an Action 12. I have a Superman 1 that's an NG restored, which I'm trying to get the restoration removed. And I have one other book that you see back there. That's it. I have a short box full of books too that are like this shit that I showed you today earlier in the video that I have, but like nothing crazy. So my goal would be to leave my youngest son my Amazing Spider-Man collection. That's my goal because he's a Spider-Man fan, loves Spider-Man, goes to the movies with me, all that fun stuff because he'll appreciate it. I know he has appreciated with me since I started collecting this stuff again. And that's kind of why I got back into it. So me and him kind of enjoy it together back when. Now he's kind of moved on to like video games, shit like that. But I would like to do that for him um, when I'm not here anymore. I have another book that I'd like to leave my oldest son. He's not a comic person at all, but it kind of fits what he is. So Everything besides those things that I just mentioned, I would like to sell before I go. So that's the plan. Plans change. Sometimes you need money. Sometimes you think it's better off letting go of a book. As I said before, I let go of my Batman 1. I sold it and I traded the Tech 31 for a couple books and cash and sold those books already. So I've eliminated a lot of things that I would love to keep those 2 books, but I ended up acquiring something else. So I didn't think I should keep that. It's just too much invested in comics. So Will says he really enjoys your videos, Drew, and so do I, and we all do. So keep them coming and more often, please. So Manu says if you grade the Goosebumps books, he will buy them and sell them, and then starting grading them too. So just like MJ said, there's a few dealers I avoid because of that here in the UK. And I got to be honest with you, I am the same way. Like I've seen I've seen a couple of dealers that people have shared with me that have done the same thing, and I just steer clear unless they make it right by refunding you, paying you the difference. If they're not making it right, then you probably shouldn't shop from them. I agree. Now, that's what leads into the conversation of maybe it's just easier to buy graded comics. And I think if you're going to buy an A15, I'm probably going to buy a graded A15, even though I'd love to own a raw copy, but it's very hard to shell out that kind of money for a raw book nowadays. Back when you bought it, it might have been a different story. I bought my A15 raw too back then. So Vicky says he'll buy Drew's A15 for 3,800 so you can make back your money on the Marvel Spotlight 5. Good deal. Friends helping friends. No, anytime, brother. When anybody puts out good content and let me know. I actually thought about doing a video about who like the top like 5 or 10 channels that I watch that are comic related. I watch a lot of not comic related stuff, but um I thought about doing that, putting about that. I didn't want to I felt bad about leaving people out. I don't want to do that. Especially if a channel has never been recommended to me and it's a really good channel. But I thought that would be a good thing to see. I don't know if anybody would appreciate that or if they wouldn't, or if, or if that's mean or whatever. I don't know. I'm not that person to call other people out or do whatever, but I thought it'd be a cool thing for me to shout out like my 5 comic book related YouTube channels that I watch. So there we have a couple of them in the chat tonight. Amazing Murphinator. I haven't seen you in a while, bud. How are you? So any chance you make the drive to Connecticut May 17th for the 3MIB comic swap? Such a fun show. I would love to go. And I almost went last year. It's like a 3-hour drive for me. Here's my thought process. I want to go because I want to hang out with everybody. That's to me, that's the best point of the show. I'm not actively buying a lot of comics. So for me to make that trip, it's kind of hard. Even Terrificon, I went last year. I'm not sure if I'm going this year because again, it's around the same drive, Connecticut, 3 hours. And I'm not really buying a lot of books. I go to like shoot footage and the swap I heard is a phenomenal show. But it's not like a lot of stuff I can film if I'm not buying books. I could just film the show and leave. And I think that's kind of a wasted 3-hour trip for me, but I would love to go. I see you guys every year at Terrificon, at least the 3MIB. I was gonna go to King Con this year. I couldn't make it. I see them come down all the time. So eventually I will get there. I don't think it's gonna be this year though, unfortunately. He-Man was my babysitter after school. Me too, man. So was Lion-O, Mumra, Optimus Prime, and Starscream. I gotta be honest, Soundwave is my favorite Transformer by far. The fucking coolest Transformer. No one could tell me that he wasn't because a cassette player that has flying Transformers coming out of his fucking cassette doesn't get any more peak than that, in my opinion. So do you think at the end of the Do you think at the end up the He-Man movie that ends up trans? No, stop it. Don't. I'm so hyped for that movie, you have no idea. If you watch my channel, there's so many people that are hyped up. 100,000 views I'm getting on these videos because that's how many people are anticipating this movie. Sorry. People have been waiting 40 plus years for this movie to come out and done right. So we'll see if it happens. He Drew C's a Hordak guy. I love the Evil Horde when they first came out from the toys, but I'm a Skeletor guy. Always have been. Horde, he is underrated. I love the Horde, but if you watch the cartoon, he was a She-Ra villain, right? The toys were Masters of the Universe, but he was a She-Ra villain. I love the villain. He was in a few Masters of the Universe episodes. Don't get me wrong, but the movie, but he was a She-Ra villain. So I wasn't as into him as Skeletor, and to me, Skeletor is more iconic with just the lines that he would come out with and how he treated all the other villains were just tremendous. Even how he treated He-Man, uh, I don't think it gets much better than that. But Hordak was great in his own right. I go to bed at 11. That's because I'm up at 4:30 for work. Not tomorrow, but during the week. He says I'm starting a sales stream in 15 minutes and going until sunrise. I'd never make it, my friend. I would never make it. No, man. If it was like minimal, but it was a beautiful copy. But you're also talking how many years ago? How CGC was so much harder on books. I feel like way back when. Does anybody ever remember? I mean, maybe Drew does. Sending books in like early on at CGC, they were so hard on books. Like I remember buying that book, and I believe they told me it was a 3.5 when I bought it, and it came back at 2.5. So, it was a really nice copy. It could have had some minor chipping, not a lot, but it was a beautiful book. Who did a good job as Cobra Commander? Did Oppenheimer do the voice of Cobra Commander? I didn't know that. I wasn't a GI Joe guy. It's excellent. It was a good movie. Nothing like the MCU has done before. So and Swag talked about the first act being a little whatever. I got to tell you, without spoiling the movie, when they're in the shaft, the it wasn't an elevator shaft, like the shaft or whatever it was. I thought that scene was hysterical. Another question: what comic did you get outbid on eBay where you would have won it if you just bid 10 or so higher than the final price? Oh man, that I don't even remember. I missed out on so many auctions on eBay because I had like a price in mind, and I wait till like the last second to put in a bid and you still get outbid. Or like I'm winning with like fucking 2 seconds left and I still get outbid, which I don't even understand. If I put in a bid with 2 seconds left, how do I get outbid? But to name an actual comic, I don't remember. Endless Christmas. I bought it right before the book went crazy, so they'd have just cracked it and done the same to the next guy. I'm not going to lose money on it. I just had a brick around its neck. I mean, that sucks, man. I would have been pissed. I would have called them out. I understand it's 2005, so whatever the hell it was, 2006, you said. you know, Social media was just probably in its infancy. It's hard. It's easy to call people out now. Somebody do that shit, they can call 'em right the hell out. That's why I don't feel like we see it as often. Chris O, what are you focusing on right now in your collection? I'm feeling a call to Bronze Age horror at the moment. A lot of people are shifting to Bronze Age horror. Um, I don't have anything that I'm actively looking for. I said at the beginning of the video, I do like a hot 10 runners up list every week on Tuesday. And I learned so much about stuff that I never knew before. And there's a great hint into if you're not a key collector or maybe you've done that already about important books or books that are selling for good amounts right now that other people aren't talking about. So like I mentioned Crime Suspense Story 17 is a great cover. And when it comes to pre-code horror, like the more effed up the cover, the better. So stuff like that, messed up covers, books that I can get deals on. That's it. I don't have anything that I'm actively searching for, but like I mentioned Action 419, it's an inexpensive book. You buy it for $50, but it's a great Neil Adams cover. I think it's better than the Superman issue that he did. But it's a great Superman cover that I never knew about, and like, well, like I like to own that book. That's a great cover. Stuff like that. Nothing crazy. Either you're sick or doing a large amount of cocaine to stay awake. Nah, man. You know what it is? Sitting in this room after a while, even though the AC's on, like I said before, it starts really cold. Like it's really nice and comfortable in the house. But this room is so fucking small. It gets really hot with the lights on. And that's what I think is affecting my sinuses. Plus, it's been almost 3 hours. I never do this for that long. No coke for me though. I think I'm a pretty intelligent guy. Imagine how intelligent or fucking psychotic I'd be if I did coke. My end game. Derek says his end game is storage unit filled to the floor to ceiling with Turok number ones. That's everybody's end game, right? I don't know how. I see some dudes who just buy and buy and buy and never sell shit. I don't understand how that's even possible. Even if they plan on leaving the books to somebody else, do you think that that person is ever going to get fair market value for their collection? No, they're going to get pennies on the dollar for that shit. Unless you have the time and the resources to piece it out book by book, which I think most people don't. Unless you're like the guy from selling Superman and you're left all this stuff and he's got the means to kind of do that stuff. No one's doing it. They're gonna get pennies on the dollar, like I said. So to me, I could never do that. I don't know how some people just buy and buy and buy. Somebody said to me, or somebody mentioned recently how I think some of the people who do YouTube just buy shit to fucking make videos. And I agree. Some people do that, which I think is crazy. New 52 was great. Like when I first got back into comics after taking a break when I was a kid and then getting back in, that's what I started with. I thought it was a great run. So hang on to that one, at least for the storyline purposes. Just reading through the chats. True, you're younger than me. What do you mean you're getting too old for this shit? But I got to tell you, I've been looking forward to con season this year. Um, and I don't plan on attending many, and it's not for going to buy books. It's just for giving me something to do. But I can imagine it's hard. I've set up at a couple of smaller shows, and it is very hard just to do it all the time. It's got to be rough. Thanks, Will. I appreciate it, bud. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that as well. Or does this look infected? Not Derek. Here's a comment from Amazing Murphy Theater. Como Swags and We Love Comics crushes it on YouTube. That they do. Chris was one of the first dudes when I got back in like 2016, 2017, whenever it was that I watched because he was constantly showing either books he was picking up or books that he had in his collection that I didn't know about at the time. So me being a comic fan, that doesn't mean I know everything about comics. I clearly don't. Still to this day, I don't. I learn something new every week. So it's always nice to get good information. And he's one of the ones I definitely flock to. He says you're one of the OG of the comic community. I remember him from when I first started as well. So Drew says Heroes Con, who's going? I haven't been in years, but I'm making the trip this year. So are you setting up, Drew? I assume you are. I've heard that this is the best comic convention there is, Heroes Con. I've heard that from many of people that it's huge, just nothing but comics. It's like a New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, but nothing but comics. So I heard it's fantastic. I've heard people tell me that it's like they walk around and they've only seen like an eighth of the show floor. That's how crazy it is. So I heard it's awesome. I wish I could go one day. Someone agrees with me that Soundwaves was the best. He was in a great voice too. I feel like all the G1 Transformer voices from that show were phenomenal. Between Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, Soundwave, all their voices were tremendous. Oh wow, you're going way back now. Dungeons and Dragons Saturday morning cartoon. I remember that as well. Way way back. I would always miss it Saturday morning. Motu was pretty well on the way out by the time I got old enough to know about what was going on. I caught the tail end of it and She-Ra in the late 80s. I think that's where it's funny because when I do these Master Universe videos, there's people calling me out in the comments that I don't know shit, but they realize that I grew up with the 80s toys and the 80s cartoon. A lot of these guys grew up with the She-Ra cartoon, like so they went back and then watched Master Universe. Was already out of it by the time like She-Ra started clicking over. Like it wasn't the same fucking show, not even close. It was a little tacky, in my opinion. She would go. Obviously He Man by the power of Grayskull, but for the honor of Grayskull, it wasn't the same. The Hordak was the best part of the show. Even some of the heroes like Bo and stuff like that, nothing like the heroes from Masters Universe. Look at Man at Arms, look at Mechanic, look at Fisto, look at all these great heroes and great villains, and they have Bo, which looks like I won't even say. So it wasn't close to being the same. The best part about the She-Ra series were the villains, like Hordak, like the Evil Horde, stuff like that. The good She-Ra and the heroes from that show, no thanks. Like I didn't want to see her ride a magic unicorn or whatever the fuck it was, a horse. I don't know what it was. I think it was a unicorn, but I forgot the name too. But like when that came out, like and then the movie came out, I watched the movie. The movie was good. After that, that was like the perfect ending to the show, and that was that. Yeah, 100%. People still love to buy original label CGC slabs in search of bumps. I think that's a lot of what I see going on right now. If anybody has an old label CGC book, and it's funny you mentioned that because I told you guys before when I traded the Tech 31, 3 out of the 4 slabs I got back are all old CGC label books, and that's part of the reason why I made the deal because I knew they were gonna sell quick, and the 4 books I got back plus cash was AF-15, which was in an old CGC label, FF number 1, was in a new label, X-Men 1 was a new label, and a Tales of Suspense 39, which is an old label, which the TOS 39 AF-15, they sold, like, as soon as I posted them. So It was a great, um, it was a great trade in my opinion for both of them. He wanted the book and I wanted to the cash. Chris says he probably got outbid the last 2 seconds from me. So it's funny. This is years ago. I remember you showing something on your channel and that you got from eBay, and I remember putting in the comments or the live or whatever it was, and I said I was bidding on that same book. So 100%, you did outbeat me at least on one, about bid me on one auction, no questions asked. No, this is not my first live show, but I don't do them often. I'm more of a definitely edited video guy, but every now and then I like to come on and just talk and just get to say all the shit that I don't always get to say in my videos. I like to hear it from everyone out there and just talk about everything that's going on, right? And I do like doing it. It's just I don't always have crazy amount of time like this to do it. We're on 3 hours and still going strong here. No, no worries, Cyclotron. I try to post when I do go live, so I usually try to do it like 7:30 Eastern time. Yes, you don't know what the winning bidder's actual bid was. It only goes up at the increment that is moving at that time. You can check out what it sold for in the research tab on eBay later on. So you can tell. Not a lot of people know that. If you go on eBay website and go to research and then type in the book that you're looking for, it'll show all the last sales and what it sold for. Oh wow. What is a comic that you would 100% overpay for to get it? That's a wild question. I don't like overpaying for anything. So, and I've owned every comic that I've ever wanted to own outside of Action 1. And I don't think I'd ever want to pay for an Action 1, but if I had the means, I guess I would. I feel like that's the most important comic ever. So I guess that'd have to be my answer. But I don't like overpaying for anything. It happens. Back in the day, I definitely, if I really wanted something, I would. But now where I am as a collector, no way. Especially in this market, F that. So he said he used to use the last second truck on eBay all the time. Doesn't work anymore. So the same thing happens to him. I wonder if like everybody's times are different because no one can be that quick. If it's 2 seconds left and I place a bid, there's no way someone could put in a different number. And like if I'm the winning bidder with 2 seconds left, there's no way someone could put in a different number within a second and a half. So something's got to be going on. They probably extend the time for somebody else, but I don't know. So no. So here's this is what I'm saying. If it's like if I put in like a max bid with 2 seconds left and I'm not winning it, that's fine. But if I put in a last second bid and it says you are the current bidder, how can I get outbid with like a second and a half left? Like I don't think it's physically possible, but it happens all the fucking time. Any of your free comic book day pickups that you are eager to read? What were the hot books for free comic book day? The Mark Spears Monster book seemed to do disappeared quickly. Got the last one on my LCS. I didn't go. My LCS is jam packed on free comic book day. Line around the fucking corner, so I try to stay away on that day. Unfortunately, I would always like to go, but what can you do? Jason, you're still here, brother. I wanted that Raw Wizard Pocket Guide, but missed it on eBay. I'm sure Manu has another one he could sell you. See, MJ is right. New 52 was awesome. It was. Got me back in for a while. He says long boxes don't get any lighter. I hear that. Oh no, Cruz says he's only going for fun. I heard it's great. I heard the prices are good for the most part as well. I heard it's the best Comic Con there is. I collected as a kid from the 70s to 90s and stopped at 18. Kept my collection and started going through it again last June 2024. Reignited the comic collecting dog at 51. So I am taking this off. Being that I don't have to listen to anyone else besides myself. I don't even know why the fuck I was wearing them, but I think that's how it happens, right? I remember when I was younger, like I'd have like a box of comics and they would sit, in a part of my house and I wouldn't even go near them. And then all of a sudden, one day I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what's in there. I wonder what I have. And then I'd go through it and then maybe kind of go want to find books again. So that happens with cars. It happens with comics. It happens with anything. Action figures as well. Sometimes they just sit in a trunk and you open the trunk like, holy shit, I remember this. You're going to think bad of me here. He-Man is a little too early for me. My only experience of it is Kevin Smith's version on Netflix, and my daughter used to rewatch She-Ra cartoon. Oh man, you missed out. Missed out. I mean, everybody has their cartoon they grew up with. For some people, it was like if you're an older kid, it's like Power Rangers. For me, I thought that was one of the most ridiculous things watching that shit. I couldn't get into it. But like I was in high school when Batman the Animated Series came out, but I still watch that. It's such a great cartoon. Um, but 80s cartoons, there was nothing like it. Nothing like it. Peak civilization, I say, 1985. That's when civilization peaked. Everything down after that. There's some people who are big Micronauts fans. That at one point I heard they were going to do some type of movie or some type of TV show, but I don't think it ever happened. Another great question, Chris. You're coming out with some great ones tonight. What are some of the earliest movies you saw in the theater? Mine was Jaws, Alien, Star Wars, Rocky, The Thing, and Shining. Those are all way too earlier for me. So you must be a little bit older than me. But 100% movies I remember going to see: The Karate Kid, the original, The Natural, one of my favorite baseball movies of all time. Seeing that in the theater with my father. Um, Pretty Woman, me and my cousin snuck into when we were kids. I remember that. The original Batman, of course. I went to see that like 4 times in the theater. Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. I'm trying to remember when I was a kid. Um, Never-Ending Story, another one. Great movie. Great fucking movie. Still to this day, I try to tell my kids to go watch that movie, sit down, they won't do it. Movie freaked me out, but it was such a good movie. I don't think I saw The Dark Crystal in theaters. I remember seeing that on TV. Transformers movie, of course. But those are my earliest. What a great time to be alive. Great question, Chris. How's your therapy sessions going? That's some great stuff. It seems like there would be lingering trauma if those are your earliest movies. I guess it means by the type of movies you were watching. Jaws, Alien, Star Wars, Rocky, The Thing, Shining. I mean, The Shining, yeah, totally freaked me out when I saw it later on. Crazy. Jaws too. Alien too. But Rocky was classic. I never saw any of them in the theater. MJ says I might do a live open hangout tomorrow. It's a bank holiday here in the UK, so I've got Monday off. Oh, nice. I don't have Monday off. That's the problem. But depending on time, we'll see what happens. Aliens was good, but the problem is with Aliens and like Predator and shit like that is they remake these movies and they keep going like years down the road and they're fucking terrible. So they like going back to watch the originals. It's not the same. I got what you mean, Manu. How high someone was willing to go if someone else's bid pushed it up. I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, that's we're never gonna know that, right? Unless you know the person that's bidding against you. Murph says, "Do you like collect yellow labels? I love meeting the artists and writers of comics." So I actually own a, 4 or 5 yellow labels in my collection, but my AF-15 is signed by Stan Lee. My Hulk 1 is signed by Stan Lee. My Amazing Spider-Man 129 is signed by John Romita. My Amazing Spider-Man 300 is signed by Todd McFarlane, and my Amazing Spider-Man 39, my favorite cover of all time, is signed by John Romita and Stan Lee. And ASM 50 is signed by John Romita and Stan Lee as well. So my books that I have signed are guys who are no longer with us. But I think having those signatures on that books, because the books mean so much to me, like those books that have those signatures are like some of my favorite books that ever have been printed. So most, if not all, are Spider-Man books. So Ramita, Stanley, um, Tom McFarlane, probably the most influential on my comic book collecting journey. Jack Kirby as well, but obviously Jack didn't sign a lot of stuff. Every now and then you'll find like a Jack Kirby sig inside a book, and it's like, wow. I've owned one in the past, but it was like a non-key, so it wasn't that important to me. Chris says the only thing I do that takes 2 seconds is my wife. There you go. At least you're still doing it. I agree, but here's the thing, like, I hate what fucking, like, Heritage does by extent not Heritage, Comic Connect, how they extend the bidding on shit. I can't fucking stand that. If you're trying to buy something there, forget it. It's not even worth it. Murph says Blue Chew. Blue Chew, Chris, Blue Chew. Actually, you know what? That will make a fucking great video, Manu. Live video. If you're following a book and you want to bid on a book, go live and like watch the book. That would be a great video. That's something no one else has done. That's a great idea. And I bet you get a lot of views on something like that, especially if it's a really like, I know you like rare stuff. So like, or a big book. That's a great video. You're giving me ideas now, man. I'm gonna have to swipe that one for you from you. Oh, here you go. Do you think comics will continue to drop in price with the demographic starting to age? I touched on this with comics a little, with toys a little bit before, and a little bit with comics. I think as we get older, obviously more people cash out, but I do think there's still younger people getting into the hobby. They're just getting into it a different way. They're not getting into it with comics per se. They're getting into it with movies. They're getting into it with video games. So I'm hoping as those younger people get older, that they flock to the source material because they enjoy those characters and want to find out where they came from. So it's possible. I don't have true answers for that. I'm not one of those guys who thinks comics are going to die down. I think eventually modern books will get less and less and less. I do think that is the case because if you go see people buying new books, they're still older people. So, vintage though, I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't. I think, especially, especially the bigger characters, the characters that where people are very fond of, like a Batman, like a Superman, um, like a Spider Man. I think they have a long lasting staying power. We talked about Invincible too. I think if you're a kid right now, like somebody said, it might have been Drew, could have been somebody else, about how their kid loves the books, he loves the show, that's the new thing. And I think that has long lasting staying power. I really do. If kids are that excited about that, which I'm seeing now, people are buying that book. I think that's got a chance. So this is the first time, MJ, that I'm using this, and I like it a lot better than StreamYard. One, it's fucking free. StreamYard, fucking, what a StreamYard got ridiculously expensive. They want like almost $500 now for whatever it is, the year or whatever it is. No goddamn way. That's insane amount of money. This looks nice, and I can record. I don't know how much time they give you, but I could also go live from here for free. I don't know how much time they go for live. I don't do a lot of live streams. That's the next thing. You probably do a lot more than me. So there might be a time limit. But it looks nice, doesn't it? I think it looks great. Says if you're ever in Mexico, it's funny, my wife was just there with her sister. Come join the hunt because there's a ton of great things to find here, from vintage marbles to insane Star Wars bootlegs. Some of those, I know those Motu bootlegs go for crazy amount of money. I believe there are Mexican Masters Universe. If you could find them, they're probably a fortune. With prices so suppressed, I've been trying to work more trades lately that's selling and had some luck. Any advice for trading? I think trading is what a lot of people want to do because a lot of people spend so much money during the boom that they can't get out of some of their books, so they're trying to trade those books for something that they want now. So a lot of people are trading. You have to get creative right now to move books because everything is so available. So if you're willing to take some monetary loss in that trade, because let's say you have $1,000 worth of trade in books, someone's going to want to pay you $700 for that trade in trade value. So it's really hard right now to trade unless you're willing to. If you really want a book and you're okay giving up more value wise, then you're getting back. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is the first time I saw Wolverine in a cartoon. You're not that much older than me, Chris. 54. You're 7 years older than me. So now you're giving your date of birth out of here in on live. I shouldn't have shown that comment. My bad. Oh, here's a good question. What's the worst thing you've done to a comic? I had the first appearance of Spawn in that promo book thing, and it took out the centerfold and colored it with markers and threw away the rest of it. You're talking about Malibu Sun? Um, I don't think I've done anything like that. Um, nah, I've never like defaced a comic. I remember when I was a kid, I liked to draw a lot, so I used to trace comics on certain comics that I couldn't draw myself, and I was okay. It wasn't great. I used to trace comics, and I would leave like the trace marks on the cover. That's probably the worst thing I did. Oh wow! I wish the new comics in the footnote with the text like 70s, 80s had. For example, if you didn't understand what the comics go on, they tell you what issues to read. Problem with new comics is one, they're really short right now, and the dialogue is so much different from when it was back in the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s. I actually liked reading 1980s comics. I think they were the best flow and dialogue from my perspective. Reading comics, 60s comics, you go back and read them, they're good, but they're very campy. But the 80s, it feels like it was right where they needed to be. But I get what you mean. I also think modern comics died when they changed the paper. I've said that constantly. If they go back to the old paper and go back to the way they always, had things back in the day, I think new comics would do better. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, man, never ending story. Atreyu, great Falcor. My son has a new dog now. We've had him for a couple years already, but he's 2. Looks exactly like that thing. I used to call him Falcor all the time. Oh man. My 80s cartoons were GoBots and the Space Cadets. I'm not familiar with Space Cadets. I do know the GoBots. They were the Transformers like fucking knockoffs, but I do remember them. I worked drawing Scooby-Doo long ago, so Hanna-Barbera is my heart. Dude, I grew up with Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, Jetsons as well. Still watched all those. Hanna-Barbera was great. MJ Jurassic, Hook, Men in Black, Batman. Man, you're showing how young you are. These are the year I was in already in I wanna say I was in high school when Jurassic Park came out. Same with Men in Black. Batman, I definitely was in high school or 8th grade. One of the 2. Oh, wow. Here's a good one. Land Before Time. Talk about trauma is right. Batman, TMNT. I remember the original TMNT movie was great. I remember seeing that in the theater, but again, I think I was in, like, 8th grade. Jurassic Park, Lion King. Definitely around I was, like, 8th grade, freshman year in high school. It was great. Fantastic. You're bringing back great memories now. Everything he named is magic. You're right. But like I said, man, growing up is the best time of your life. I don't care what anybody says, especially if you're a male. I hate to say it. I don't know what it feels like, what women go through it as a young person, but if you're a male and you got to grow up with some of the stuff we're mentioned tonight, you lucked out. Like between the 80s cartoons we mentioned, from the 90s cartoons, some of the 90s movies we mentioned. It's just we were lucky to grow up with this stuff. You watch this shit now, I can't the MCU aside, like if you grew up as a kid, like my kid has been lucky growing up with the better part of the MCU because he's always going to remember that. We still quote movies together from that, but like how they're never going to realize how good an 80s cartoon was. Even some of the 90s stuff like TMNT. I mentioned Batman animated series, same thing. Cartoons now are a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. How many of you older comic YouTubers remember about 8 years ago when someone sent the image comic troll all around the community and everyone sign it and mail it to the next person? I don't remember that at all. Image comic troll? That one I don't remember. I originally got into grading only as a way to support signature authentication, which I still think is fine. Almost all of my books were yellow label. Now, since getting into golden age, only about a third of my books are not gold. I always say to me, especially like with older books, that it's a great way to narrow down a book. Like, right, if you have a ASM 129, a Bronze Age book, and you have a signature on it, an important signature. I'm not the person that says you got to get someone that is not important to the book signed, because I don't think it does anything. But if you can get like a even like Silver Age, a Stanley signed AF-15, I always say that I'd rather have that, because if you look in the census, there are far fewer of those books available. So I think it does help. Manu says he screen records his sniping. Oh my god, dude, that's that's crazy. Why? What do you do with the screen recordings after you do it? You gonna make like a compilation? Bang! Got this one. Got that one. That's great. I don't know what we're talking about. Are you? Wow, was it you who started that, or started what? The kids at my store are reading trade paperbacks. What are they reading? What titles? That's to me. That's a great place to get started if you're a reader. Is reading those, because single issues can be tough sometimes. Because to follow a entire story, if you're not going to your LCS or wherever you are to get these books, it's very hard. I do that now as an adult collector. If I want to read something, I'll go buy trade paperback, because it's an easy way to get a full story, or at least most of a full story, instead of having to go there every freaking month to get one issue. Oh, you guys are talking about that book in the chat. I'm sorry. MG said he's going to try to go back to sleep now. Dude, go to bed. Get your rest. Go enjoy the movie before you fall asleep in the theater. I'm probably going to cut this short soon. 3.5 hours, man. It's just too good of a conversation. I'm not going to lie. This has been fantastic tonight. Giant size X-Men 1 and a BB gun. My older brother was pissed off for months. I'm assuming, what's the worst thing you ever did to a comic? Holy shit. Yeah. I would have been pissed off too, dude. That's crazy. What was the earliest gaming system you had as a child? I had the Atari 2600, but even before that, I owned a system that was the shape of a triangle and had a steering wheel, a Lycon, and a Pong. So I don't know. Was that ColecoVision? No, ColecoVision was not a Pong triangle. I didn't have it at 2600, but my cousins had a 2600, so I played it. So I didn't have it, but we lived in the same house, so I definitely played it on there. My earliest system that I had in my house was the Nintendo NES Classic, and that's why to me it's still my favorite system. And after that, it's probably a tie between the 2600 and the Sega Genesis. To me, the Sega Genesis was the next best system after the NES. So many great games came out on that system that kind of like picked up the arcade. Like, how do I want to say this? It like pushed the arcade systems forward, because I remember, and I've talked about this before, going to Nathan's Hot Dogs and playing the arcade. And I played a lot of Nintendo arcades, right? Punch Out, Mario Brothers, Popeye, Donkey Kong Jr., all that good stuff. But when the Sega Genesis came out, I found games like Ninja Gaiden. I found obviously they came out with Sonic on the system, but um, referred me back to a lot of great Sega arcade games that I never played before. So started doing that as well. So those are my favorite systems by far. So he said he signed the Troll comic book too. I don't remember that. I must have been before me, before YouTube. I started doing that. I'm with you, Killer Money. 80s was the best time, not even just to be a kid, the best time to be alive. The United States was thriving, whether you're from here or not. I think the world was thriving for the most part. There was some sketchy shit in other countries. I'm not going to say no, but between growing up in that time, man, you don't have to worry about anything. You rode your bike and you left it Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. You didn't come home until 6:30. Nobody question where you were. Nobody got worried. It was just great. You didn't have to worry about shit. Now I don't even like my kid going walking into town. I live in a nice area. I worry about him going into town by himself. Yeah, his comment was sent around the community about 8 years ago, and we all signed it. What what was the you someone said it was a troll book though. Like, was it when you say troll, was it about somebody or and then what was the book of what was the book? Drew said he had a Commodore 64 with 5-inch floppies full of Atari games. So I remember I didn't have a computer, Apple II GS. They had a lot of games on that. Like, what was the game? It was like you walk around, but there was like a carriage and buggy. Oh, it was such a popular game. I forget the name of it now. Someone's got to know in the chat. It was a really, really popular game. I was fucking playing that game for hours on the stupid computer. Oh, I can't think of the name. Commodore 64 was, I never had one, but again, that was before Atari 2600. That was before NES. So you had an old system, man. Drew. I'm pretty sure that was before that. We're in 2025 there, brother. I'm assuming you mean 2015, which is still 10 years. I've been doing it, I think, for 6. Oh, yeah, 215. There you go. Says his Commodore 64 had the tape cassette and a printer that had 4 colored pens that would take forever to print anything because it literally wrote it. Wow, 2000. So you've been doing this almost 20 years, dude. I hope to be doing it that long. I don't know if I could come up with enough content to do it that long. You're not that old. If you're old, I'm old. Oh, the comic was an Image comic and was called Troll. But why did you all I mean, you just sign it just to all sign it, or was there did something about the comic that you all wanted to sign? What made you wanna sign that book? That's my question. I feel like that's an odd book to everybody to sign. Was it a blank cover too? Or did it have, like an actual image? Oh, I've never heard of this book. Oregon Trail. That's the fucking game. Yes. I would spend goddamn hours just on that stupid game. I found it so fun. It was a stupid game, but I found it awesome. Oh wow, dude, Jason, now I played that shit in high school, TurboGrafx. I still play Bonk's Adventure sometime on the mod that I have. Such a great game. There were a lot of obscure games on that TurboGrafx 16. It wasn't out that long. It was a good system though. You're bringing back memories now, man. Um, someone's gonna kill me for this, but I had an N64 in college, and I didn't think it was a good system. I didn't think it was a good system at all. Sega Dreamcast was another system I thought was great, and it never got enough play. But it was like the first system that had like superior graphics to everything else, and the gameplay was pretty smooth. Again, a CD game as well. That's when PlayStation was out there, the original PlayStation. Oh, I get it. You all had a lot of trolls in the community. Well, we still have trolls in the community, right? We haven't lived until you've died of dysentery, 100%. They I'm telling you, man, they were the days. Thank God we all got to grow up the way we did. Because I feel like, you know, if we didn't, where would we be now? All the fucking people that are fucked up in this world that do insane shit. Maybe they didn't grow up with that stuff. Maybe they didn't get a chance to watch He-Man. Maybe they didn't get a chance to play Commodore 64 or Atari's 2600. So I thank every day for my childhood and the way it was, even though it wasn't easy, but wasn't that hard either. My fraternity brother used to DJ with 2 Sega Genesis in college. How would he DJ with 2 Sega Genesis? I don't understand that one. I do not get that at all. I remember getting ET for the Atari 26, the worst game of all time, brother. I had that too. Again, one of the dumbest games of all time. They actually there was a documentary about that saying that that was the worst home video game of all time, that game. And everybody was so excited for it too. What is it like now? If back 10 years ago was a Wild West, what is this? I don't know, man. I feel like there are so many people on here that it's worse now, but I mean, you're just talking about the comic community too, right? We're not talking about other avenues on YouTube. That's crazy. He makes a great point here. Growing up with social media would suck. And I think that's what's kind of nobody could sit still anymore. Like imagine us as kids watching, I remember getting home from school like 3:15, 3:30, whatever the hell it was, and then just watching literally 2 hours straight of cartoons. Uh, can any of these kids sit still and do that nowadays? No freaking way. So I think he's part of it. That being on the phone, even myself now as an adult, being on this stupid thing all the time, just wild. It's kind of ruined the younger generation. No, Pac-Man was I remember it being a kid and Pac-Man being the it thing. Pac-Man was everywhere, not just in the arcade, in all the home systems. Pac-Man T-shirts, Pac-Man freaking cartoons. I remember the cartoon was great. I remember always trying to get up and trying to catch that shit Saturday morning, and I'd always miss it. And there were no rerun. No, we didn't see reruns of that. There was no YouTube back then. Yes, I remember the landfill, the ET stuff. At least that's what they said they did, but then they went looking for them and they couldn't find them. I said, now we just have Sticky Goose. I don't know if anybody's caught his video today about Mike Carbell. That's the best video he's put out in a while. Very lot of information, whether you like Mike or Sticky or not. It was a good video. But this is a great stroll down memory lane tonight, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation because it was fantastic. Pac-Man and Pizza Hut, a little bit harder than any other Pac-Man, 100%. I didn't have a Pizza Hut growing up around me, but like I said, that Nathan's that I went to in Yonkers, New York, played a lot of those games. That wasn't Nintendo, but that was like, what the hell was it? Namco, I think. Back then, it might have been something else, and Namco bought them out, but I don't remember. But definitely, Miss Pac-Man was more of my favorite than the original Pac-Man. But yeah, man, that's all we would do on the weekend. If we could get there, that's what we would do. Arcade, and not even the arcade. Like I grew up where like a couple of like delis by me had like, even pizza places. They had like arcade stuff. There was Showtime Pizza also, who had when I could get there. My dad would take me there to go to the arcade there. It was like a Dave and Buster's, like a Chuck E. Cheese. But but I was lucky enough to have like a pizza place who would have like a Pac-Man, stuff like that. And I would go in there, and even if I didn't get pizza, I would just go in and play the game. I thought they found the landfill, but they didn't find the games. That's what I thought. I didn't know he was referenced by that name, but he did a video came out today about Carbo and gave a whole bunch. He read a whole bunch of like facts, like that was been printed. So he made it clear that this is what went on, blah blah blah. So check out the video. It was a good video. Oh brother, man. See, you were alive before color TVs. That's old. All right. The fact that that color TVs came out in 1974 is wild. Gen X was the last generation that was free to go anywhere as a kid. I was part of it, so I know no phones, no internet, just bikes and riding until the streets came on. I referenced this movie before, recently on the channel, Monster Squad. Remember that movie? One of my all-time favorite movies from when I was a kid. Oh, I'm getting a power thing here because I've been on so long. But I'm going soon, but definitely want to finish us on a high note. They found the games. Look it up. All right. I thought they didn't find it. New York Warrior says, my parents used to take us, Biggie, I assume this is you. My parents used to take us to the place in Queens called Pizza City. It was the best. They had a huge arcade room attached. Yeah, man. Those are the times. Like I said, Yonkers in Nathan's, Showtime Pizza by me in Jersey. Those are the go-to. Love those places. Check my phone for the troll book. Me or Chris? Oh my god, Atari Combat nerfed a ton of those tube TVs. I remember that freaking game. That was like one of the more popular 2600 games too, man. I always see that everywhere I go, like you could buy for cheap, but it was one of the easier 2600 games to play. And the 2600 was so, what's the word I want to use? It was so bare, right? You freaking lines going across the screen. That's all it was. Or dots, big square dots. It was supposed to be a bowl. Yeah, man. Monster Squad is Wolfman's Got Nards. I referenced that in one of my videos. Love that movie. My name is Horace. What was the earliest year about baseball cards to get? I was a huge baseball card fan when I growing up. I remember trying to find that 86 Tops Jose Canseco. Geez, that was like my one of my favorite cards. The Mark McGuire, the USA card. I remember. Obviously, the Ken Griffey Jr. As I got older, the Fleer card. Billy Ripken fucking fuckface card was one of my all-time favorites that I wanted. I never actually got it. But I was a big Mets fan, so anything Doc Gooden, Howard Johnson, Darryl Strawberry, right up my alley. Oh, I gotta check it out when I get off here, Murph. I will definitely check it out. Thank you for sending it to me. Guys, this has been an absolute blast, I'm not gonna lie. Absolute freaking blast tonight. Almost 4-hour stream. Who would have thought that I would do that? But this is a stroll down memories past. This is what the community should be. Just I would love to do this live where we all could just kind of like talk about this stuff and not just me reading comments. Because how fun would it be to just kind of, you remember this, you remember this, what's this doing, what's that? Like I remember this. Like I would love that. That would be such a fun show, I think, for everybody to watch, to be a part of, to pop into the chat and talk about, give them like give each other their best experience that they had growing up with anything collectible or the things that we've been talking about tonight. So Bonos, you're right. Definitely one I remember 100%. Oh, you're bringing back more memories now. Thurman Munson from the 76 Yankees. Wow. I never saw the card. I know Thurman Munson has obviously died in a plane crash, but absolutely wild. Guys, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. It's a quarter to 12 at night, which is fine. I'm all for it. This is fantastic. I want to thank everybody out here who's been a part of this conversation and spending your time with me tonight. I hope anybody who watches this on the rewind, you kind of get the feels that we got tonight here on the channel, whether you're, Gen X or Gen Z, whatever you enjoyed growing up. I think most of us are probably around the same age, between the 30s and 60. So I would say most people in here are probably in their 40s or 50s. So we're close enough to where we want to, we will all remember this stuff. So again, this is a blast. I want to thank each and every one of you. Hopefully we get to do this again. And like I said before, do it live. I think we'd all have a blast. I really would. So really do think that. So again, remember, I said to a couple of you guys out there, whoever want to do a collab, I'm open to it as well. Thank you guys again for joining me tonight. Like always, this is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics Collectibles saying thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and I'll talk to all of you soon.